Vivian got off work early today. Taking advantage of the fact that Judy was still at the beauty center and hadn't come home yet, she told her mother-in-law what Wyatt had mentioned that afternoon. After hearing the story, Julia Jung immediately asked, "How old is he?" "A year older than Judy." "What's his family situation?" "His parents are settled in the D.C. area. He graduated from MIT and now works for a major defense contractor. Wyatt says his supervisors really value him." Julia's eyes lit up. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's arrange for them to meet." Vivian smiled. "We still need Judy to agree first. It's not easy finding someone suitable. If she refuses to go, I'll break her legs." Vivian smiled. "We still need Judy to agree first. It's not easy finding someone suitable. If she refuses to go, I'll break her legs." Judy didn't get back from the shop until 6:30 in the evening. The moment she stepped into the living room, she sensed a strange atmosphere. As she changed her shoes, several pairs of eyes were fixed on her. "Why are you all staring at me? Come here," Julia commanded. Judy blinked furiously at her sister-in-law, her eyes pleading, "What's going on?" Vivian didn't respond, just smiled. Judy cautiously sat down on the sofa and braced herself. "Mom, what is it?" "You're going on a blind date tomorrow." "Another one?" Judy shot to her feet, immediately refusing. "I'm not going." Over the past 3 years, Julia had asked around for suitable young men. Judy had been on 2 blind dates during that time, but one turned out to be a player and the other was an effeminate pushover. The experiences had left her with a deep-seated aversion to the whole process. Just as Julia was about to speak, Victor Yu, her brother, gently pulled her back. He smiled at his sister and said, "This time it wasn't one of Mom's friends who set it up. It's someone Wyatt knows." "Wyatt?" Judy furrowed her brow. "Don't tell me it's one of his employees." Victor shook his head with a smile. "No, his family's financial situation might be ordinary, but the guy himself should be decent. You know Wyatt. He wouldn't be flippant about something like this. Settled in D.C., a graduate of MIT, working for a major defense contractor, and yet Zachary Lee was described as having an ordinary family background. Only someone like Victor Yu, the current head of the Gold River Group, could say such a thing with a straight face." Judy felt a sense of relief, but she still put on a tough front. "What is he? A matchmaker in a past life? Why does he love meddling in this kind of stuff?" Julia smacked her daughter on the backside and scolded, "He's kindly introducing you to someone, and you're here being cynical. If you manage to get married, I'll personally go to his house to thank him." Judy sighed, a look of utter helplessness on her face that screamed, "Does anyone understand what I'm going through?" The next afternoon, 2:30, inside a small, niche coffee shop. Judy had been sent over early. She glanced at the time, took out her phone to snap a picture for Wyatt, and quickly sent a voice message. "It's already 2:30. For a first meeting, he's making me wait for him. Do you think that's appropriate?" Wyatt replied quickly, "Hold on, I'll ask." About 2 minutes later, Wyatt sent another message. "He's not familiar with the area. Says he's nearby, but can't find the place. Can you go out and get him?" "Wyatt, are you for real?" Wyatt was speechless. "If your sister-in-law hadn't pestered me about this repeatedly, I wouldn't have bothered with you at all." But in the voice message, Wyatt said, "This is the last time. If it doesn't work out, I'm never setting you up again." Judy didn't know how to reply. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. Just as she pushed it open, she saw Zach Lee walking toward her. Zach had grown up in the Midwest, a region known for tall people, and he was no exception. At 6'1", with even slightly thick-soled shoes, he looked closer to 6'3". He was currently looking down at the map on his phone, glancing around for the coffee shop. He wasn't bad with directions. It was just that this cafe was incredibly obscure. There was no sign above the door, only a small, roll-up banner standing outside. It was a weekday, so there weren't many people out. Judy was almost certain that the guy walking towards her was her blind date. She didn't call out to him right away, choosing instead to observe him from a distance. He's handsome. Height is very nice. Fashion sense is passable. At least he seemed much more normal than the 2 weirdos her mom had arranged. Judy smoothed her hair, glanced down at her outfit, and then raised her hand. "Zachary Lee?" Zach looked up and nodded quickly. "I'm your date for today. The coffee shop is this way." "Sorry about that. I'm not familiar with the area. I think I actually passed by here a minute ago. Don't worry about it. This place is hard to find, I know." Judy led Zach back into the coffee shop and, once they were seated, began asking some basic questions. Throughout the conversation, Judy took the lead. That was her personality, always assertive. It was the reason Michael Zhao acted like a meek little grandson in front of her. "All right, I think I've got the basics. Is there anything you want to ask me?" Zach thought for a long time before finally getting a sentence out. "You've pretty much covered everything. I don't really have any questions." Judy's brow furrowed. "Are you not interested in me?" That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? Seeing how direct Judy was, Zach decided to be blunt as well. We're not kids anymore. Since we're at the blind dating stage, we can skip a lot of the steps. If, and I'm saying if, we start seeing each other, what kind of pace are you hoping for? To be more direct, how many months until we make it official? How many months until we meet the parents? And how many months until engagement? Judy was a little stunned, but then she remembered Zach was an engineering type, and she quickly came to terms with it. Instead of answering, she countered, have you been in a relationship before? No. What's your first impression of me? Use 3 words. Beautiful, lively, bossy. Isn't bossy a negative term? To me, it's neutral. Sometimes being bossy isn't a bad thing. At the very least, it shows a person has their own opinions. So you have a good impression of me. Yeah. Okay. After we finish our coffee, I'm taking you somewhere. Where? You'll find out soon enough. 15 minutes later. In the car. Where are we going? You just asked me how many months until we make it official and meet the parents, right? Yeah. My answer is 1 day. Huh. It's a half-hour drive to my house. You have 30 minutes to get out of this car at any time. After you get out, we'll pretend none of this ever happened. Ugh. Judy's impulsive decision wasn't just because Zach had made a good impression. The main reason was that she was completely fed up with being pressured to get married. She wanted to bring Zach home to shock her mother. But things didn't unfold as she had imagined. When Julia saw Judy bring Zach home, she was surprised for a moment, but quickly recovered and welcomed him inside. What followed was a standard meet-the-parents session. Seeing the situation getting out of hand, Judy immediately tried to get Zach to leave, but Julia insisted he stay for dinner. And so, the situation spiraled. Wyatt heard about it the next day and wasn't surprised. If it had been anyone else, he would have found it outrageous. But for Judy, it was perfectly logical. Michael Zhao heard the news and came up to Wyatt's office before leaving work to confirm its authenticity. Once he did, he burst out laughing. Huh, taking a guy home on the first date? Only a crazy woman like Judy would pull something like that. She was probably just fed up with the pressure from her family. It was a retaliatory move. So who's the guy? He was in the R&D department of the industrial group back when we were acquiring Deadless Robotics. Michael laughed. You really threw him into the fire pit, didn't you? It'll be fine. Judy isn't that unreasonable. As long as you know how to handle her, it shouldn't be a problem. Wyatt then added, Zach's personality is a lot like yours, completely whipped. Plus, he works in D.C. and doesn't have much free time. If he and Judy aren't a good match, then I can't think of anyone who would be. When the hell did I become whipped? Just as the words left his mouth, Michael's phone rang. Seeing it was Isabel, he quickly answered. Hey, honey. You're at Wyatt's place? Is Annie there? Okay, I get it. I'll head over with Wyatt tonight. After Michael hung up, Wyatt asked, Your wife took your daughter to my place again? You know it. In that case, I'll give Chris and Leo a heads up. We can have some drinks at my place tonight. Sounds good. I have to pick up my daughter from kindergarten first. I'll go with you. Annie starts kindergarten next year, so I want to check out the environment. If it's good, maybe Annie can go to the same school as your Ellie. Wyatt sent Leo a text, then got up and headed to the kindergarten with Michael. After picking up Paul and Ellie, Wyatt called Chloe and asked her to prepare some appetizers for the evening, as he, Michael, Leo, and Chris were going to have a few drinks. Uncle Michael, where's my little sister? Ellie asked from the back seat. Michael, in high spirits, replied with a smile. She's at your house right now. You'll see her when we get home. The little sister Ellie was referring to was, of course, Annie, Michael and Isabel's eldest daughter. She was born in July 2020, just a few days apart from Paul's birthday, making her a year younger than Paul and Ellie. She was an adorable child, with a round, chubby face from being spoiled by her grandmother. So soft you could squeeze water from her cheeks. Michael, you watch them in the car. I'm going to run down and grab some barbecue and take out. Got it. After getting the call at home, Chloe went into the kitchen to prepare the food. Isabel stood by, watching Chloe's skilled movements, and couldn't help but sigh. Who would have thought that the girl who couldn't even make her bed in college would become a full-time housewife just a few years later? Chloe laughed. Well, I can't just do nothing at home all day. Why not? Wyatt's a big boss now. He could hire 10 housekeepers if he wanted. Chloe shook her head. I don't like having strangers in the house. Besides, Grandma helped with Ellie when she was a toddler, and now that she's in kindergarten, there's less to worry about. There really isn't that much to do at home. Oh, I'm so jealous of you two. What's there to be jealous of? You and Michael are doing great, aren't you? Annie is too, and you have another one on the way. Wyatt told me that if it's a boy, your in-laws are giving you a massive trust fund. Isabel laughed. It's not about the money. My parents only have me, and Michael's parents only have him. If we only had one child, the grandparents would definitely have something to say about it. Childbirth is painful, but I've heard that once you get through the first one, the second is much easier. I'm living a life of leisure now. I'm quite content. Chloe smiled and changed the subject. Is Annie closer to you or to Michael? It's about the same. I spend more time with her, so if I had to say, she's probably closer to me. My girl is only close to her dad. Do you scold her often? Of course not. I'm just a bit more of a nag than her dad. But can you blame me? If she's watching TV all day or eating snacks nonstop, am I supposed to just ignore it? Let her dad handle it. Haha. The two hadn't been chatting for long when Wyatt and Michael returned with Paul and Ellie. Annie and Ellie had a natural affinity for each other. The moment they met, they were inseparable, holding hands and sitting on the sofa to watch cartoons within minutes. Wyatt put the takeout barbecue on plates and then deliberately teased, "Isabel, you're already a few months along with your second. How come your belly isn't showing?" "Duh. I'm wearing such loose clothes, of course you can't tell." Isabel retorted, "Have you talked to Sophie? When is she coming over?" "Leo will tell her. Her son is here, so she'll definitely come. What's the rush? You don't have work tomorrow. Or, do you and Michael have other plans tonight?" Seeing Wyatt's mischievous grin, Isabel rolled her eyes. "Haha, you wish." Wyatt took a few cans of beer from the fridge and placed them on the table. He then considered whether to eat inside or in the yard. If Chris came with Paige, there would be 8 adults. They could fit in the living room, but it would be crowded. After some thought, Wyatt asked Michael to help him move the long, foldable dining table into the yard. The sun was about to set, and it would be more comfortable to sit outside. About 10 minutes later, Leo, Sophie, Chris, and Paige arrived one after another, all bringing food. They had been worried there wouldn't be enough, but when everything was laid out on the table, they found they had more than plenty. Michael said impatiently, "Where's the beer? Let's drink." "Strange. I just took 6 cans of beer out. Why is one missing?" Isabel frowned. "Ellie, were you hiding your shirt?" Ellie pulled a can of beer from inside her clothes and said sweetly, "Mommy said drinking cold things is bad for Daddy's tummy, so I'm warming it up for him." It was a habit Ellie had probably picked up from Wyatt, who would always pull Chloe's cold feet into his lap to warm them. The little girl was just copying what she saw, but her words struck a deep chord with Leo and Chris. Leo slapped his thigh dramatically. "Sophie, we absolutely have to have a daughter." The old-fashioned preference for sons was a thing of the past for Wyatt's generation. In fact, these days, having a daughter was more enviable. A son was nothing but trouble, whereas a daughter was thoughtful and obedient. What could be better? Chris chimed in, "Daughters are definitely better. My boy is getting more and more disobedient. His grandparents spoil him rotten, and he acts like he's afraid of nothing in front of me. When he's ready for elementary school, I'm bringing him to the city. I can't let my parents raise him anymore." Wyatt put Ellie on his lap, popped the tab on his beer, and took a long, satisfying drink. "The schools in Miami are pretty good. If your parents are willing to take care of him, let them. It saves you and Paige the trouble." Chris also took a sip of his beer. "I'm afraid the two of them will spoil the kid rotten. After seeing Victor's son at your house last time, and then going home to see my own kid, there's just no comparison. They were born in the same year, but mine still needs to be fed. Look at Victor's son, so well-behaved and sensible." Now Wyatt laughed. Among these kids, Henry is the most well-behaved, followed by Paul. Sophie rolled her eyes. "He's not well-behaved, he's just timid. I don't know who he gets it from." As she spoke, she glanced at Leo. Leo immediately retorted, "I wasn't like that when I was a kid." Wyatt ultimately decided not to expose Leo's childhood stories in front of Sophie and Paul. Isabel changed the subject. "Chloe, have you been watching any shows lately?" "Occasionally." "What?" "Mandy's college roommate is on that big reality show on ABC. Ashley Young." All 3 of Mandy's roommates had signed with Blake Lively's production company, but their career paths had diverged. Lily's contract expired after the 3rd year, and she didn't renew. Sarah started dating a producer's son during a shoot and is now semi-retired from acting. Of the 3, Ashley Young had the best development. She had a great look, standing at 5'7" with impressively long legs that made her stand out on screen. Her first role was the second female lead in a web series. The main actress was being heavily promoted by her agency, but her acting skills and looks couldn't compare to Ashley's. As a result, when the show aired, Ashley, the second lead, ended up getting most of the attention. She went on to star in several other novel adaptations, most of which did well. What truly made her a household name was a web series she starred in this year with a popular young actor titled Echo in Reverse. The show had started as a short-form drama on Crimson Media's platform. After it blew up, an investor bought the rights and adapted it into a full series. The moment it aired, it trended on social media. It was no exaggeration to call her a big star now. In early 2021, when things had opened up, Ashley had visited their home and brought many gifts for Ellie. About 2 months later, Wyatt received a call from Mandy. An investor on a new project had insisted Ashley attend a dinner party. The producer on that set had a terrible reputation in the industry, and Ashley was afraid she'd be pressured to drink, but she was also afraid of offending the investor if she didn't go. Ashley had complained about it to Mandy, who then asked Wyatt for advice. After understanding the situation, Wyatt went with Ashley to the dinner that night. At the table, someone happened to know Wyatt and introduced him around. After that dinner, Ashley never encountered such a situation again. Other actors would just whisper behind her back that she was being sponsored by some powerful tycoon. Yeah, she's really popular now. She's got like 7 or 8 million followers on TikTok. Chloe smiled. Well, that's because she worked hard for it. Isabel sighed. I often wonder if I hadn't started dating Michael in college and had gone into the entertainment industry instead, would I become a big star too? Michael was so annoyed he just laughed. He was rewarded with a solid punch from Isabel. Isabel then rubbed her belly. Well, no chance now. I'm pregnant with my second, my body's out of shape. They say you lose your mind for 3 years after having a baby. After having Annie, I feel like my IQ has dropped. Come on, let me test you, Wyatt said with interest. In class, the teacher asked little Johnny, there are 7 birds on a tree. If you shoot one, how many are left? Johnny says 0, because the others would be scared away by the gunshot. The teacher says, the answer is wrong, but I like the way you think. Then Johnny asks the teacher, there are 3 women eating popsicles. One is sucking, one is licking, and one is biting. Which one is Mary? Isabel thought for a moment and ventured, the one who's biting? Wrong. Wyatt laughed. It's the one with the ring on her finger. But I like the way you think. As soon as he finished, the whole table burst into laughter. Michael sighed helplessly and silently picked up a peanut. When Isabel realized what had happened, she wasn't angry. She just pointed at Wyatt and said to Chloe, see, he's still such a jerk. He's always been like this. While the adults were chatting away, Ellie, Paul, and Annie had gathered together. Ellie held Wyatt's half-empty beer can and, with the air of a gang leader, asked, do you dare to drink this? Annie didn't dare to speak. Paul also shook his head. The two of them combined didn't have half of Ellie's courage. How could they dare to do something only adults were allowed to do? So useless. Alcohol is for grown-ups. We'll get in trouble if we drink it. My daddy won't spank me. I had a drink when I was 2. Annie, being a year younger, wasn't quite on the same conversational wavelength as Ellie and Paul. She said in a tiny, sweet voice, we have lots of alcohol in my house. We have lots at our house too. My daddy has tried every kind of alcohol. My daddy too. Has your daddy ever eaten a lobster this big? He has. What about chicken feet? He has. Does he eat big pieces of fat like this too? Yup, Paul nodded emphatically. My daddy even eats poop. Ellie's eyes widened in admiration. The next second, Leo smacked his son on the head, fuming. When the hell have I ever eaten poop? In a residential courtyard in New York City, Ethan Jiang, who had recently dropped the deputy from his title of commissioner, rushed home and immediately said to his wife, Caroline, if your sister comes looking for you in the next couple of days, don't pay her any mind. Her husband is in deep trouble because of her this time. Caroline's brow furrowed. What happened? Someone gave her $150,000 to get her husband to help with a certain case. Turns out, she never even told him. After the case was judged, the person who gave the money sent a knife with blood on it to their house by courier, but Henry Jiang didn't think much of it. Now he's been reported. Henry has already been taken in and should still be under investigation. A leopard can't change its spots. Ethan said, since he's my brother-in-law, some people came to ask me about the situation today. I told them the truth. Even if this has nothing to do with her husband, it's impossible for Henry to stay in his current position. I suspect this will most likely end in divorce. Find a good time to tell your parents, so they can be prepared. What will happen to Kathy? If she can return the money, she'll probably face detention for 3 to 6 months. Caroline fell silent, lost in thought for a long time. If Mom and Dad find out, they'll sell everything they own to come up with that money. But what happens after? Divorced at her age and with a criminal record. In the future, even though Kathy was her own sister, Caroline remained calm, her mind racing through all the possible consequences. She brought this on herself. I know she did. I don't feel sorry for her at all. But what about my parents? They won't be able to handle this. Ethan said, it's already happened. What do they do if they can't accept it? As the couple was discussing the matter, the doorbell suddenly rang. Ethan and Caroline exchanged a look, and Caroline got up to open the door. Speak of the devil. Standing outside was none other than Kathy and her son, Julian. Before Kathy could even get the word sister out, Caroline raised her hand and slapped her hard across the face. You still have a nerve to call me your sister? Julian immediately stepped in front of his mother, yelling, Andy, Why did you hit my mom? Get out of the way. This is not your place to speak, Caroline, usually so composed and polite, roared, scaring Julian so much his legs went weak. Kathy, who had always been unreasonable and self-centered, seemed to finally grasp the severity of the situation. She dropped to her knees at the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Sister, you have to help me this time. Help you? How can I help you? You took $150,000 just like that. Didn't I warn you 3 years ago? You just can't change. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. Kathy cried out toward the house. Ethan sighed and walked to the door, his face grim. The best thing to do now is to go to Henry's office, explain the situation, and return the money. Everyone at his work knows about your relationship with Henry. The investigators won't make it hard for him. Is that all it takes? But you can't escape detention. A minimum of 3 months, a maximum of 6. Detention. Hearing those words, Kathy looked as if she had lost her soul. Her eyes stared blankly ahead, completely empty. Caroline said, "Your brother-in-law won't steer you wrong. This really is the best possible outcome for you. Mom and Dad are old. If you can promise not to involve them, I'll borrow the money for you. But you have to pay it back. If you can't, your son will. Your brother-in-law, and I don't have that kind of money." Seeing his mother sobbing, Julian surprisingly stood firm. "We'll pay it back. I'll work construction to pay back that money if I have to." "Well, I've shown you the path. How you choose to walk it is your business. As your sister, I've truly done all I can." Kathy sobbed for a long time before finally getting up from the floor. Wiping away her tears, she said, "I'm going to find them now." With that, she turned and left. "Mom." Julian started to follow, but Kathy choked back a sob and yelled, "Don't follow me. You stay here." Caroline let out a breath of relief. Behind her, Ethan asked quietly, "Who are you going to borrow $150,000 from? Who would lend money that they're almost guaranteed not to get back? Do you think I want to? Dad has high blood pressure. His health has always been poor. If he finds out about this, will he be able to handle it? But there's someone who should lend it." "Who? Wyatt? Mandy's cousin?" "Yes." Caroline glanced at Julian. "I'll swallow my pride and take him with me to ask." Ethan shook his head and sighed. "You decide. I just hope this is the end of all the trouble." Late September. The temperature was slowly dropping. Some mornings, you'd wake up to a slight chill in the air. After the alarm went off, Wyatt and Chloe mechanically got out of bed. After brushing their teeth and washing up, one went downstairs to make breakfast while the other went to the second floor to wake Ellie. "You two, hurry up, you're going to be late." "It's fine, I'll drive a little faster." "Is her backpack ready?" "It's ready." "Daddy, the teacher said we have to bring our red scarves to school today. She's going to teach us how to tie them." "Red scarf. I bought it. Washed it in the machine yesterday. Go get it." "Oh." After a chaotic morning, Wyatt took Ellie to kindergarten. After safely dropping her off, he went straight to the office. Taking the elevator from the underground garage to the top floor, Wyatt had just stepped out when Abby Zhang stood up. "Chairman, someone is here to see you." "Who?" "She says she's J.C.'s mother-in-law." Wyatt's brow tightened. "J.C.'s mother-in-law?" "Yes. She's been waiting for over half an hour. Please ask them to come up." "Okay." Just as Abby was about to go, Wyatt stopped her. "Never mind, I'll go down myself." So, Wyatt, who had just gotten out of the elevator, got right back in. When he reached the first floor, he immediately spotted Caroline. They had met once before, and he still remembered her. After a brief pause, Wyatt ran over with a smile. "Annie, Caroline, you were looking for me?" Caroline heard his voice and quickly stood up. Julian, next to her, looked up at Wyatt and stood up as well. "I came without calling first. I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Don't say that. Your family." Seeing that Caroline didn't continue, Wyatt asked, "Is there something you need, Auntie?" Caroline nodded with some embarrassment. "There is something I need your help with." Seeing her expression, Wyatt knew it must be something difficult to talk about. He quickly understood. "Let's go up to my office. It's too busy down here." "Okay." Caroline coming to Wyatt was a last resort. She knew her sister's character all too well. If she didn't help her come up with the $150,000, Kathy would almost certainly go home and tell their parents. Caroline's father was 84 years old, a critical age, and his health was already poor. Caroline was terrified that the shock would cause him serious problems. That's why she had thought of Wyatt. Before coming, she had spent a long time mentally preparing herself. She wasn't someone who liked asking for help, but at this point, she couldn't think of a better solution. "Abby, bring a pot of tea." Right away, Wyatt led Caroline and Julian into his office. Caroline sat down on the sofa, while Julian, next to her, looked around the office with wide, curious eyes. He was 22, a classic case of a spoiled second-generation kid. It wasn't his father Henry's fault. As a court official with a demanding job, his free time was limited. Kathy, on the other hand, had never worked a day in her life, so she and her son spent far more time together than the father and son did. And Kathy doted on her son to an extreme degree. She spoiled him to the point where she still let him sleep in her bed when he was in middle school. She spoiled him to the point where she would try to fulfill any unreasonable request he made. In this environment, Julian naturally grew into a good-for-nothing delinquent, a stranger to both school and hard work. And this is my nephew, Julian. Wyatt had attended Mandy and J.C.'s engagement party, but hadn't paid any attention to Julian at the time. He had, however, met Henry and Kathy briefly. With Caroline's introduction, Wyatt immediately understood Julian's background. "Auntie, please just say what's on your mind. Mandy is like a sister to me, and I've known J.C. for a long time. We're not strangers." Caroline took the teacup. After Abby closed the door, she began to recount Kathy's story. She knew it was airing dirty laundry in public, but if she didn't explain, Wyatt wouldn't understand the importance of the $150,000. Wyatt listened without any surprise. Kathy was the one who had made Mandy cry before. The woman's sharp-tongued nature was written all over her face. Wyatt even felt that she completely deserved her fate. "I'm going to her house later to sell off anything valuable. I guess I can get 20 or 30,000 from that. I can come up with another 20 or 30,000 myself. That still leaves a shortfall of about 100,000. I really have no other choice." "Auntie, please don't worry." Borrowing money was a small matter, and borrowing only 100,000 was an even smaller matter. Wyatt pointed at Julian and smiled. "So this money, you're raising it for him? You could say that." Wyatt nodded, thought for a moment, then went to his desk. He took out a sheet of A4 paper and a pen, walked over to Julian, and handed them to him. "Write an IOU." Julian was dumbfounded. "You're such a big boss, and you want an IOU for 100 grand? Caroline didn't understand Wyatt's intention, but felt that writing an IOU for a loan was only right and proper. She said to Julian, "If you want to save your family, you'll write this IOU." He didn't dare defy her. He had already witnessed his aunt's fierce side the previous evening. Wyatt smiled. "G.C. and Mandy are getting married after the new year. They'll need money too. Don't you worry about scraping it together, Annie. I'll lend the whole amount." Caroline said, "It might be a very long time before you get this back. It's fine. 150,000 is pocket change to me." Hearing this, a thought flashed through Caroline's mind. "Why don't you find him a job? Let him work to pay off the debt." Wyatt looked at Julian, a slightly awkward expression on his face. Caroline quickly realized she had spoken too hastily. Julian hadn't even finished college. He didn't know how to do anything. He would probably just be a nuisance at Wyatt's company. She was about to say something when Wyatt spoke. "It's not impossible, but everyone in my company must have one quality: obedience." Caroline immediately understood. "That's not a problem. You can discipline him however you want, as long as he stays alive." "As long as he stays alive?" "Yes." Julian was already spoiled rotten. If Wyatt could help discipline him, it would be a win-win. But Julian wasn't happy about it. He immediately cried out, "Auntie!" Before he could say more, Caroline shut him down. "Didn't you say yesterday that you'd even work construction to pay back the money?" Julian was instantly speechless. Wyatt walked over and glanced at the IOU Julian had written, unable to resist pointing out, "Hasn't anyone ever taught you that monetary amounts on documents have to be written out in words?" With Caroline present, Julian scribbled out 150,000 and tried to write $150,000, but he couldn't get the spelling right. In the end, at Caroline's suggestion, he took out his phone, typed it out, and copied it onto the paper. After finishing the IOU, Wyatt had Julian sign it and add his thumbprint. Then, Wyatt transferred the money to Caroline. "Thank you on behalf of his parents. I won't keep you any longer." "Auntie," Wyatt said quickly. With something like this happening, is his father's career at his unit basically over? "Yes." Wyatt smiled. "In that case, could you give me his father's contact information?" Caroline frowned, looking puzzled. Wyatt quickly explained, "My company's legal department is missing a leader. I need someone with experience to take the helm." Caroline had a moment of epiphany. So that's it. He was thinking that far ahead. She was inwardly stunned. No wonder he's achieved so much at such a young age. His mind works on a level that not even his peers, or even many old hands in the system, can match. Even if Henry Jiang had lost favor because of this incident, he had worked in the justice system for a long time. His network was still intact. Before, it would have been nearly impossible for a private company to poach him. But now it was different. If he could get Henry to work for his company, he would have a natural advantage in any future legal battles, whether suing or being sued. No wonder J.C. sat at home, When others are thinking about the first step, Wyatt is already on the fifth. In the end, Caroline took out her phone and sent Henry's number to Wyatt. "Thank you, Auntie. Take care. Julian will stay with you. You can handle him however you see fit. I'll repeat myself. As long as he's alive, you don't have to worry about his parents. I can make the decisions for their family now." Okay. After having Abby see Caroline off, Wyatt returned to his office, his gaze falling on Julian. Before he could speak, Julian shot back. "What are you looking at me for?" Wyatt wasn't bothered in the slightest. He had seen too many entitled brats like Julian. He still smiled. "This $150,000, how do you plan to pay it back?" Julian retorted sourly. "Whatever you want." Wyatt nodded. "Very good. Since you said you'd even move bricks to pay it back, then you can go move bricks." "Move bricks, then?" "I'll move bricks," Julian shot back, assuming Wyatt was joking. He figured Wyatt wouldn't do anything too harsh, if only out of respect for his aunt. But he had underestimated Wyatt. Wyatt quickly picked up his office phone and made a call. 5 minutes later, Leo Chun, the project manager for the film studio, knocked and entered the office. He said respectfully, "Chairman, you were looking for me?" Julian couldn't understand why people older than Wyatt acted so deferential in his presence. "You're going to Riverwood tomorrow. Check on the progress of the film studio, and take him with you." "He is. Just take him with you. I'll let David Loon know you're coming." "Understood." Leo Chin quickly left the office. Wyatt sat back down at his desk and got back to work. Seeing Wyatt's calm demeanor, Julian started to get nervous. "You're not really sending me to move bricks, are you? Didn't you just agree?" Julian, I suggest you just do as I say. In my eyes, you're not even worth as much as trash. You don't actually think you can pay back $150,000 on your own, do you? I lent the money because of your aunt and your dad. It has nothing to do with you," Wyatt said slowly. "In this building, excluding the support staff and company veterans, the minimum requirement to work here is a bachelor's degree from a top-tier university. If your aunt hadn't brought you here today, you wouldn't even be qualified to walk through my company's front door. Even if I sit here and do nothing all day, I earn more in a day than you'll earn in your entire life. So shut your mouth and sit there quietly." Hearing this, Julian grabbed the teapot, ready to smash it on the floor. Wyatt laughed with amusement. "That ceramic teapot is worth 5 figures. If you smash it, I'll call the cops immediately. My company has the receipts and everything. Your dad works in the courts. I don't know if you understand what the police do about destruction of property. You can look it up, but I remember that for property valued over $5,000, you could face up to 3 years in prison or detention. Or do you want to be locked up for a few months, just like your mother?" Julian's hand hovered in the air, not knowing whether to smash it or not. "I'll count to 3. Put the teapot down. 3, 2, 1. Put it down." Wyatt roared. Julian flinched and, as if by instinct, obediently placed the teapot on the coffee table. 1 year. You do whatever I tell you to do. After 1 year, we'll consider the debt paid. You don't have a second choice. Of course, you could try to resist, but let's see who will stand behind you and help you this time." After speaking, Wyatt ignored him and started working on the documents on his desk. That evening after work, Julian returned home, feeling lost. He had expected the house to be empty, but he found Caroline there with 2 or 3 strangers, sorting through the family's belongings. "Ma'am, you don't want any of these things?" "That's right. Give me a price for everything, based on market value, and pay me in cash." "No problem. Roughly how much is it all worth?" "Luxury goods depreciate quickly, but with this much, it should be worth about 16 or 17,000. There are a lot of shoes in his room. See if you take those." Julian panicked. "Auntie, shut up. The ones that have been worn aren't worth much. These ones, still wrapped in plastic, are worth about 5 or 6,000 altogether." "That's bull. That one pair of collaborations alone is worth $3,000. 6,000 is the highest we can go." Caroline made the final decision. 6,000 it is. Take it all away." "Okay." And so, the luxury goods buyers packed up all the valuable bags, shoes, and clothes in the house. The 2 rooms were suddenly empty. Julian sat on the sofa, utterly dejected, all his energy gone. Caroline said, "Your mother has already confessed everything. She won't be out for at least 6 months. Your father will be under investigation for a while. From today on, you better not cause me any more trouble. I won't help you one bit." With that, Caroline left. Julian didn't sleep all night. Meanwhile, when Wyatt got home from work, he sensed that the atmosphere was a bit off. Chloe was in the kitchen, humming a tune, seeming to be in a good mood. But Ellie was sitting on the sofa, pouting, looking unhappy. Wyatt frowned, thinking usually when I get home, my daughter runs over for a hug. "What's wrong today?" Wyatt changed into his slippers, sat down next to Ellie, and asked with a smile, "Ellie, did Mommy scold you again?" "No, Ellie turned her head away, her pout even more pronounced. Just then, Chloe came out of the kitchen. Seeing the two of them on the sofa, she couldn't help but laugh. Wyatt asked curiously, "What's wrong with her?" "You have a nerve to ask." "What do you mean, I have a nerve to ask? I just got home from work. What does it have to do with me?" Chloe picked up Ellie's backpack, took out the red scarf Wyatt had put in it that morning, and handed it to him. "Look at this." Wyatt unfolded it. "Isn't this my underwear?" "Huh. The kindergarten required them to bring a red scarf today. And you put your lucky red underwear in Ellie's backpack." She got laughed at all day. "Huh," Wyatt said awkwardly. "I was probably in a rush this morning. I saw it was red and just stuffed it in her bag." Ellie pushed Wyatt away and said angrily, "I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go away. Daddy's sorry, Daddy's sorry." Ellie crossed her little arms over her chest, mimicking an adult, completely ignoring Wyatt's sweet talk. Seeing this, Chloe thought, "You had it coming," and returned to the kitchen with a smirk to continue making dinner. It took Wyatt a good 20 minutes to coax the little girl back into a good mood, and that was only after promising to buy her a whole new set of Barbie dolls. That night, Wyatt received a call from J.C. After learning what had happened, J.C. sighed repeatedly. "I knew this day would come." Wyatt laughed. "This might be a good thing." J.C. agreed, then asked, "What's the situation with my cousin now? Your aunt handed him over to me. I'm planning to send him to Riverwood to work on the construction site for 3 months. I need to grind all that arrogance out of him first. What if he runs away? He can't. I've already talked to the people there. His pay will be monthly, and they'll only give him enough for living expenses. He won't even be able to afford a bus ticket." J.C. laughed. "And after 3 months, if he's still the same, I'll wash my hands of him. If he's learned his place, maybe I'll let him be my driver. It seems like driving is the only skill he has." J.C. quickly said, "Then I'll call him and cut off his retreat in D.C. I'm worried he'll run to our grandparents. That would be best." The next morning, Julian was already at Wyatt's office door. He wanted to go in, but Abby wouldn't let him, even when he insisted he was now a company employee. Half an hour later, Wyatt finally arrived. Seeing Julian standing outside his office, he walked over. When Julian saw Wyatt, he hurried up to him. "Are you really giving me $150,000 a year?" There was a loophole in that question, and Wyatt wasn't falling for it. He smiled. "I only promised yesterday that if you follow my instructions for a year, I'll consider your debt of $150,000 paid. I never said I'd give you a salary of that amount. You're not worth that price. Then what happens after? Once your debt is paid, you and I are done." Wyatt keenly noticed the disappointment in Julian's eyes and quickly added, "Of course, if you perform well, I might let you stay. Your salary could be half of hers." "What? Half of hers?" Julian said indignantly. "Her salary as an assistant is double mine." "Abby, how much do you take home a year, all included?" Abby answered truthfully, "Around $800,000. Wyatt smiled. "Did you hear that? Even at half of her salary, you'd be making around $400,000 a year. Forget $400,000. With your current abilities, could you even find a job that pays $100,000 a year?" Do you have any idea that a salary of $400,000 puts you above more than 98% of the country? I know your mom probably never skimped on money for you, but have you ever earned a single cent of that money yourself?" Wyatt mocked. "I don't have time to chat with you. Survive the first year, and then we'll talk. Otherwise, everything is off the table." Just as Wyatt walked in his office, Leo Chun came upstairs and found Julian. "We should get going." Julian hesitated for a long time, but eventually turned and left with Leo. Around 2 in the afternoon, they arrived in Riverwood and took a rideshare to the film studio site. Julian was surprised. He had thought that outside of New York City, everywhere else was just a poor, rural backwater. He hadn't expected the environment here to be so nice. It was quaint, with several film crews actively shooting scenes. He followed Leo Chan in a daze to David Liu's office. "Mr. Liu, you're here." "Yes, and I brought the person the chairman asked me to." "Good. We'll talk later. I need to take care of what the chairman asked for first." "No problem." It wasn't Leo's first time in Riverwood. He left the office and went to his accommodations with ease. David Liu walked to his desk, picked up a hard hat, a red vest, and a pair of nylon gloves that he had prepared earlier, and handed them to Julian. Julian's brow furrowed. "What are you looking at?" "Take them." Wyatt hadn't told David about Julian's background, only that he should be treated like any other worker. Julian reached out and took the items. "This is your work uniform. From now on, with a hard hat and vest when you're on the construction site. The chairman already told me you owe him money and you're here to work off your debt. So you don't get a salary. The chairman only authorized me to give you $500 every 2 weeks for living expenses. $500. What can I do with $500? David said. Around the site, food carts come by at meal times. The food is simple, but the rice is unlimited. $10 will fill you up. You only have an hour and a half for lunch, so you won't have time to eat elsewhere. 500 is more than enough. Without waiting for a reply, David continued, Don't just stand there. Come with me. David grabbed a hard hat for himself and led Julian toward the expanding construction site. About 15 minutes later, seeing the many workers busy on the site, Julian finally realized Wyatt hadn't been joking. This was real. Mr. Liu, Mr. Wang, I got a helper for you. His name is Julian. He starts tomorrow. Show him the ropes. So skinny? Working on a construction site. The boss's orders. All right then, I'll get him settled. No special treatment. The boss said to treat him like a regular worker. If he can't take it and runs off, don't worry about it. Understood. Come on, kid. I'll show you to your living quarters. Riverwood wasn't Julian's territory. He had no confidence to argue, so he obediently followed Mr. Wang to the dormitory. As the metal door of the dorm swung open, the smell of stinky feet hit him like a wall. Don't be so dramatic. People who work on construction sites don't have time for personal hygiene. This dorm is actually pretty good. There are only 5 people in here now. The dorms down the hall have 8. Pick a bunk. We assemble at 7:30 in the morning. After the briefing, we eat, and work starts at 8 sharp. 1 hour lunch break, and we finish at 6 in the evening. What about weekends? We get paid for the days we work. Unless it rains, there are no days off. Julian's heart sank. His first thought was to escape, but where could he go? 3 days later, Caroline sent a message asking about Julian's situation. He was her nephew, after all. With Kathy in detention, it was already a testament to her restraint that she had waited this long to ask. Wyatt quickly replied, I don't know, I'll have to ask. So Wyatt called David Liu. Hello, Chairman. How's the kid doing? He worked for half a day on the first day, then skipped out in the afternoon. The second day, he moved from a dorm to a hotel 5 kilometers away. He came back this afternoon and asked for an advance on his pay. He must have run out of money. Don't give it to him. I didn't. I refused him directly. Tell him that for every day he skips work, $50 will be deducted. Okay. Wyatt had expected this outcome. The afternoon Julian arrived in Riverwood. He had called Wyatt countless times. Wyatt hadn't answered a single one and had even blocked his number. After hanging up, Wyatt sent a voice message back to Caroline. He's still in Riverwood. My people are watching him. Caroline asked, He's in Riverwood? What did you have him do? Wyatt laughed. I have a film studio project under expansion in Riverwood. I put him to work on the construction site. Didn't he say he'd move bricks to pay back the money? You really made him move bricks. Auntie, with his personality, if I don't grind him down, do you think it's appropriate to have him by my side? Can he stand it in Riverwood? He has no money, and J.C. has blocked off his D.C. connections. Right now, besides staying in Riverwood, he has nowhere else to go. I'm first letting him understand his own worth. In a few days, I'll offer to change his living situation, and he'll be ecstatic. His personality was formed slowly, like a frog in boiling water. I have to use the same method to slowly change him back. If he can last 3 months, I'll bring him back to be my driver. By then, he probably won't dare to look at me with the same eyes he did when we first met. Caroline was silent for a long time, then suddenly laughed. It seems that handing him over to you was a very correct choice. Wyatt also laughed. A fair exchange. His father is out now. Okay, I got it. I'll let his dad know. If anything happens over there, let me know. No problem. On the 5th day, Wyatt finally unblocked Julian and took the initiative to call him. Julian answered almost instantly, and the next second, a torrent of curses poured through the phone. Wyatt, you son of a bitch. Wyatt, not using speakerphone, simply placed the phone face down on his desk. Several minutes passed. Damn it, say something, you bastard. Wyatt picked up the phone, his voice calm. Are you done? If you're done, it's my turn. Hearing Wyatt's voice, Julian was afraid he'd be blocked again, so this time he stayed quiet. I'm thinking of getting you a separate dorm room. Really? But I heard you haven't been working very hard these past few days, so I'm hesitating. Damn it. My hands are covered in blisters. How am I supposed to work? Beep, beep, beep. The moment Julian finished cursing, Wyatt hung up. Julian looked at his phone, terrified, and immediately called back. Thankfully, Wyatt hadn't blocked him yet. He quickly complained. The workers' dorm isn't fit for humans. It's not just dirty, it stinks. The worst part is they snore all night. If I can't sleep at night, how am I supposed to work during the day? This evening, David Liu will take you to a new dorm. It's not big, only about 160 square feet, but you'll have it to yourself, and it has a private bathroom. You finally showed some humanity. What did you say? In nothing. Julian quickly corrected himself. Wyatt chuckled. But this dorm is only temporary. The next time I hear about you skipping work, I'll have you move back to the workers' dorm. You have no room to bargain right now. I heard you've already pawned everything you could just to stay in a hotel for a few days. Riverwood is my territory. I know everything you do there. Are you really going to make me stay in Riverwood for a year? $150,000 for a year's work. Isn't that a good deal? Ask the workers around you how much they make in a year. It depends on my mood. If you behave well and do as you're told, I might consider transferring you back to New York. Oh, and by the way, this phone call was your last chance to swear at me. If there's a next time, you can just peacefully move bricks on a construction site for a year. That's all. The call was disconnected again. Julian's emotions were a tangled mess. He had been on the verge of giving up, but the sudden offer of a private room made him hesitate. Even though Lou told the foreman to treat me like everyone else, I'm not stupid. I know I do the least amount of work on the site every day. Now that I have a private room, maybe I should stick it out a little longer? $150,000 is no small sum. Dad couldn't save that much in 5 years. Mom doesn't even have a job, so paying it back is out of the question. It seems like the family is now relying on me to hold things up. Maybe I should just listen to him. A big boss like him wouldn't go back on his word. In New York, Julian hadn't understood how much influence Wyatt had. But after a few days in Riverwood, he had learned from the conversations of the workers and others around him that Wyatt was a well-known major figure in the city. After the film studio, Wyatt had gone on to donate a library, a community center, and had sponsored a group of underprivileged students in Riverwood over the years. He had become a celebrity entrepreneur known to almost everyone in the city. That evening, Wyatt called Julian's father, Henry Jiang. After his investigation concluded, Henry was put on mandatory leave. He returned home, his spirits at an all-time low. His wife was in detention, his son was missing. After this incident, his career was likely over. He would probably be transferred to a position with no real power. Life suddenly felt meaningless. He kept thinking, if he hadn't married Kathy, what would his life be like now? But there were no do-overs in life. All his regrets turned into a deep sadness, leaving him disheartened and devoid of spirit. When Wyatt called, Henry was about to eat instant noodles. Seeing the unknown number, he rejected the call. In his position, he received many strange calls every day, so he rarely answered unknown numbers. But a few seconds later, he received a text message from the same number. Uncle Henry, it's Wyatt. Is it a good time to talk? Of course, Henry knew who Wyatt was. On the first day he was out, Caroline had told him that Wyatt had lent the money and that Julian was with him. But Caroline hadn't mentioned that Julian had been sent to Riverwood to move bricks. A minute later, the phone rang again. This time, Henry answered. Hello, Uncle Henry. What is it? Uncle Henry, I won't beat around the bush. I heard about what happened, so I wanted to ask if you've considered working for a private company like mine. Our firm has been lacking an experienced legal professional like you. Not interested. Uncle Henry, you have to look forward. What's done is done. There's no turning back. You can't blame others. You can only blame yourself. A man must be cautious about 2 things in life: marriage and career. You chose your marriage, so this outcome is your own doing. But a career is different. Even if one road is blocked, you can always find a new one. It was the first time Henry had been lectured by someone so much younger, but he wasn't angry because Wyatt was speaking the truth. He had no one to blame but himself. If you stay at the court, your future is set in stone. But if you come to my company, you can plan a new path. I can't guarantee much else, but at least in terms of compensation, it will be much higher than your salary at the court. And there's another benefit. Wyatt deliberately paused. Henry took the bait. What benefit? We live our lives for our children. You only have one son, Julian, but he's been spoiled rotten by his mother. You could say your hope is gone, but if he stays with me for a year, I'm confident I can turn him around. Where is he now? Riverwood. Riverwood. Yes. I sent him to move bricks. Move bricks? Is he the type? Accept my friend request on Messenger. I'll send you some photos. Skeptical, Henry accepted Wyatt's request, and soon, Wyatt sent over 7 or 8 photos. They were all taken that afternoon by Lou on the construction site. In the photos, Julian was wearing a hard hat and a red vest, with nylon gloves on his hands, busy working. In a couple of the photos, he was even smiling. Henry couldn't believe his eyes. A father knows his son best. He knew exactly what Julian was like. How could he possibly be someone willing to work on a construction site? How did you get him to listen to you? Wyatt laughed. I have my ways. In short, if you come to my company, not only can you restart your career, but I can also return a well-behaved son to you. Uncle Henry, a man can't lack the courage to start over. See, investments will always have its doors open for you. Henry sighed. I'll think about it. Okay, goodbye. in a gymnasium in a small county in Pennsylvania. G.C. was playing table tennis with a city official. They chatted as they played, their conversation ranging from small-town matters to national affairs. A secretary in a crisp business jacket and glasses stood by, keeping score. At first, the score was close, but near the end of each game, J.C. would always make a mistake and lose a point. G.C. You play a good game. I played a lot in college, but I'm still no match for you, sir. The official took a towel from his secretary, wiped his sweat, and laughed. I never thought I'd be able to keep up with you young folks at my age. G.C. You weren't letting me win, were you? Of course not. My shirt is soaked. I just couldn't return your serves. Huh. The official laughed heartily. It's mainly because you set the ball up so well for me. It's because your shots are too tricky, sir. A drop to the left, a shot to the right. You can't get to them. It seems the only way is to promote you higher up. Hearing this, the secretary pushed his glasses up his nose, thinking to himself, who is backing this kid? Is he really getting another promotion? G.C. naturally understood the official's implication, but remained humble. I'll do my best to learn a few more tricks from you, sir. Haha. By the time they left the gymnasium, it was already dark outside. After a few words at the entrance, the official got into a black Volkswagen Passat and left. G.C. glanced at the time and, seeing that his office wasn't far, started jogging back. His forehead was covered in sweat, but from the speed of his pace, it was clear he wasn't tired at all. You're back. Yeah. At home, Mandy had already cooked 2 dishes and a soup, following a recipe. She was dishing out rice. Why so late today? I was playing ping pong with a boss at the gym. No wonder you're all sweaty. I'm going to take a shower first. You go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me. Okay. G.C. took a shower. When he came out, he took the bowl of rice Mandy handed him. After a couple mouthfuls, he said, if all goes well, I should be able to transfer to the city office next year. Is it confirmed? No. Nothing is ever a sure thing in the system. I'm only telling you this. Oh, your mom called just now. She asked if we have time to go back for the fall holiday. G.C. asked, what did you say? Mandy replied, I said it depends on your schedule. I probably can't make it back for the holiday. The sewage renovation project in town is almost finished, and I need to keep an eye on it. Can't have any accidents. I figured as much, Mandy said, not all bothered. There's something else. What is it? Mandy smiled. Your uncle-in-law has already started at my cousin's company. That's good news. Yeah, eat up. Your cooking seems to have improved again. Really? You know I never lie. I never lie to you. Time flew by, and soon it was the October long weekend. It was the hottest one on record. No one expected the temperature to jump back up after dropping a few degrees in late September. It was already past the autumn equinox, but it still felt like summer. Wyatt's family had been back to Riverwood for the Mid-Autumn Festival, so they didn't plan on going back for this holiday. However, Charles and Miranda planned to come over from Philadelphia to spend the holiday with Ellie. At dusk, the setting sun painted the western sky red. Chloe, bored at home, tried to drag Wyatt into the yard for a game of badminton, but it was the first day of the holiday, and Wyatt was feeling lazy. Chloe called him for a long time, but he wouldn't budge. Finally, she had no choice but to bribe Ellie with ice cream to get her to call Wyatt. After the deal was struck, Ellie immediately ran to Wyatt's side. Without a word, she grabbed his hand and started pulling him toward the yard. Wyatt instantly gave in and started playing badminton with Chloe. Ellie sat in the middle, holding an ice cream cone. The chocolate melted and smeared all over her face, turning her into a little painted cat in no time. Go, Daddy. Go, Mommy. She cheered for Wyatt one moment and Chloe the next, all while eating her ice cream, as busy as could be. They played for about 20 minutes and were both drenched in sweat. Wyatt took off his t-shirt and shorts and dived straight into the pool. Chloe said helplessly, the water in that pool hasn't been changed all summer. It's fine. I used to jump in stinky ditches as a kid. This is cleaner than a stinky ditch. Why don't you come in too? No way. Chloe sat on the side, watching Wyatt leisurely floating in the water. She was tempted, so she went to the gate, locked it, and then, too lazy to go back inside to change, she just took off her outer layers and jumped straight into the pool. The pool water, warmed by the sun all day, was pleasantly warm and comfortable. What time are my parents arriving tomorrow? Around noon, probably. Your dad went to Philadelphia on the 30th. They're driving over this time, so we don't need to pick them up. We'll just need to make a few extra dishes for lunch tomorrow. When we were home for the festival, did my mom say anything else to you? Wyatt smiled. She did. What did she say? What else could she say? It was about having a second child. This topic was no longer a private matter between them. Chloe asked directly, what did you say? What could I say? If you get pregnant, we'll have it. It's not just my decision. Chloe swam to the edge and lay on a lounge chair. Wyatt played with Ellie in the water for a while before getting out. After drying Ellie off, Wyatt deliberately asked, "Ellie, do you want a little brother or a little sister?" Ellie greedily replied, "I want both." Wyatt glanced at Chloe and smiled. "Then go make a wish on Mommy's tummy. Maybe your wish will come true next year." The little girl actually listened. She pattered over, buried her forehead in Chloe's stomach, and started muttering something. Chloe was amused. She patted her daughter's head and said, "But if you have a little brother or sister, Daddy and Mommy's love for you will be split in half." Ellie said in her sweet, childish voice, "Daddy and Mommy have a lot of love. It's okay if it's split in half. And I'll have a brother or sister to play with." Wyatt smiled with satisfaction and then said to Chloe, "You take Ellie for a bath first. It's not even 7 yet. You take her first. We'll go upstairs for a bath later too. After that, it's time to get to work." "What work?" Wyatt blinked and smiled faintly. "What do you think?" Chloe quickly stood up, took Ellie's little hand, and said, "Let's go. Time for a bath." Ashley gave birth to a boy in mid-October. His grandmother had a master divine his fate and said he was lacking the element of water in his 5 elements. So he was named Evan Fawn. Evan was now a department head at Arc Interactive, a position on par with Dexter Dewan and second only to Leo. He and Ashley had also bought a new apartment in New York in 2021. It was over 2,000 square feet in a decent location, a spacious flat. After learning the news, Chloe arranged to visit her with Isabel and Sophie. Now that they all had their own families, the 4 of them got together less and less frequently. Fortunately, they were all in New York now, unlike their other college classmates who had scattered across the country after graduation. Time passed quickly. After October, the temperature gradually dropped. In the South, autumn was the shortest season. You'd barely wear a light jacket for a month before you had to switch to a thick down coat. Ellie was now used to kindergarten life. She had not only become the class monitor of her kindergarten class, but also the teacher's little helper. One day, in mid-December, as Wyatt was leaving work, he happened to run into Henry Jiang in the elevator, and they naturally started chatting. "Uncle Henry, is there anything you're not used to at the company?" "No, it's better than I expected." "That's good. As the company has grown, we've had more and more lawsuits. Travis Tang and Irene Shio are overwhelmed. If you hadn't come, I probably would have had to hire an outside law firm. Most of them are infringement cases, nothing major. Some can be resolved with just a cease and desist letter. It would be best for Crimson Media to set up a copyright team to handle these matters specifically. I'll have a word with Michael." That, Henry started, then hesitated. Wyatt noticed his hesitation and asked with a smile, "Uncle Henry, are you wanting to ask about Julian's situation?" Henry sighed. His birthday is in a few days. What father doesn't care about his son? Even though he had been displeased with him before, after being apart for so long, Henry actually missed him quite a bit. But men have a fatal flaw. They always bury such feelings in their hearts and never talk about them. Wyatt took out his phone from his pocket, opened his chat history with David Liu, and tapped on the latest photo, handing the phone to Henry. Henry took it, his eyes fixed on the screen. This. On the screen was a dark-skinned young man. If it weren't for the fact that his facial features hadn't changed much, Henry would never have recognized him as his own son. Julian had been in Riverwood for nearly 3 months. On the 5th day, Wyatt had given him a private dorm room. On the 10th day, Wyatt had increased his bi-weekly living allowance from $500 to $1,000. On the 20th day, Wyatt had adjusted his work hours from 8 to 6 to 9 to 5. Each time, just as Julian was about to give up, Wyatt would give him a small benefit to reignite his motivation. After a month of this, Julian finally adapted to life on the construction site. After surviving the sweltering heat of October, the work suddenly felt much easier. He, who used to complain about carrying 4 bricks, could now easily lift 6. He even found common ground with the much older workers on the site. Julian would often brag about his past, how he was surrounded by beautiful women and would spend tens of thousands at a bar in one night. The workers all knew he was bullshitting, but no one ever called him out. In return, the workers would tell him dirty jokes. Some of them made even Julian blush, but he still loved listening, and after hearing them, he'd curse, "You guys are dogs." After nearly 3 months on the site, his body had naturally thinned out, and his skin had darkened more than a little, but his spirit was much stronger than before. His eyes were bright, his arms were muscular, and even his smile had become much more genuine. Wyatt prompted, "There's more before this. Scroll up." Henry scrolled through the photos. Wyatt explained, 2 weeks ago, I had the person in charge there give him $3,000 at once. Said it was a bonus. Actually, I wanted to see how he would spend the money, whether he would go back to his old ways of debauchery. But the result was somewhat surprising. After he got the money, he first bought himself a new pair of shoes, but they weren't expensive, only about $300. Then he actually treated the workers he worked with to a meal, which cost about $900. Do you know where the rest of the money went, Uncle Henry? Henry shook his head, his eyes eager to know. He bought an induction cooktop, a bunch of pots, pans, oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. And on a second-hand shopping app, he spent $500 on a used refrigerator. He's cooking for himself. At first, it was just boiling dumplings and instant noodles. Later, he started learning to cook from online videos. Wyatt said, I was originally going to wait until he had worked the full 3 months before calling him back. Since his birthday is in a few days, I'll just arrange for him to come back a few days early. After he comes back, what do you plan to have him do? Driver? Wyatt asked with a smile. What do you think, Uncle Henry? Henry nodded quickly. That's the best arrangement. You are the company you keep. Sometimes, following the right person is far more important than your own efforts. Henry handed the phone back to Wyatt and said with great emotion, to be honest, before this, I was unwilling to admit he was my son. I got into college at 17, did my bachelor's and master's in 6 years, then easily passed the bar and got into the court system, step by step. Henry paused mid-sentence, then continued. If he didn't look like me, I might have actually gone to the hospital for a paternity test. Wyatt chimed in. He's not stupid. G.C. told me he got his driver's license in just a month when he was 19. Yes. When he comes back, you can look forward to his change, Uncle Henry. Henry nodded and finally said softly, for this, I have to thank you. Back home after dinner, Wyatt called Julian. Hello. Julian's tone was a stark contrast to before. Wyatt said concisely, buy a ticket back to New York for tomorrow. For what? What? You don't want to come back. Clang. It sounded like a spatula falling into a pot. You're transferring me back to New York? Yes. Holy SH. He swallowed the word before it came out and then said something that almost made Wyatt burst out laughing. What about all my stuff here? I've only had this fridge for half a month. Someone will take care of it. When you get back, come straight to the company and find me. I'll arrange your next job. Okay. Julian Jiang bought a bus ticket for 10 in the morning, but was wide awake by 7. He packed up all the food from his refrigerator and anything else useful, then headed over to the workers' barracks early. Hey, Walt. Julian? What are you doing here so early? Where's Lee? In the can. Julian handed the bags of supplies to Walt, explaining with a smile. I'm heading back to New York today. I won't need any of this. Can you give it to Lee for me? I know with both his kids in college, things are tough. Back to New York? You're quitting. Yep, Julian said with a grin. But who knows? Maybe I'll be back after a while. I'm not a free man anymore. Walt chuckled. New York is good. You're young. More opportunities for you in the big city. Julian nodded with a smile and quickly left. For some reason, the barracks, which had seemed like an uninhabitable hellhole on his first day, no longer felt so foul and dirty after nearly 3 months. After Julian left, Lee emerged from the bathroom, and Walt handed him the bags. Lee really did have it rough. He was from a small town in Pennsylvania, and his wife had been injured in a construction accident years ago, leaving her unable to do heavy labor. She tended a small garden at home while their son and daughter, thankfully, were doing well. The son had gotten into a good state university, and the daughter was in a top high school. Lee often boasted that in another 4 or 5 years, once his kids graduated, he'd finally retire. It was only after hearing Julian mention that a bachelor's degree could be followed by a master's that Lee amended his retirement plan to after they both have jobs. The entire weight of the family rested on Lee's shoulders, so he was incredibly frugal. He'd usually buy a pack of 5 plain bagels in the morning, eat 3 with water, then get the $10 all-you-can-eat lunch special at the diner next to the site. For dinner, he'd eat the 2 remaining bagels. His daily expenses rarely exceeded $20. Since Lee was always bragging about how beautiful and well-behaved his daughter was, Julian would constantly pester him for a picture. At first, Lee refused, but last month, he finally relented and showed Julian a photo. She was cute, for sure, but by big city standards, she was average. Of course, in a father's eyes, his daughter is always the most beautiful, so his pride was understandable. After seeing the photo, Julian would deliberately tease Lee, saying he should let him marry her. Every time Julian brought it up, Lee would playfully curse him out while the other workers roared with laughter. These 3 months in Riverwood had been hard, but they had left Julian with many profound memories. He knew that once he left, it was highly unlikely he'd ever return. As he packed his bags and got into the taxi to the station, he felt a surprising pang of reluctance. He worried if Lee would find $1,000 he'd tucked into the lunchbox. He regretted not saying a proper goodbye to the other guys that morning. Around 2 in the afternoon, Julian arrived at the C.V. Investments building. When he appeared before Abby Zhang, she didn't recognize him at all. It was only after she asked who he was and learned he was the street punk from 3 months ago that her jaw dropped into a perfect O. Knock, knock. He tapped twice on the office door and, hearing Wyatt's voice from within, pushed it open and walked in. Wyatt glanced up at Julian, not showing the same surprise as Abby. He put down his pen and asked with a smile, "So how was it?" Julian shrugged, affecting an air of indifference. It was all right. He was still playing it cool, but Wyatt didn't press him. He just asked, "Have you eaten?" "I had a cup noodles on the train. Go down to the second floor and get some real food. Come back up when you're done." Julian was puzzled. "It's after 2. Is the cafeteria still serving?" "You'll see when you get there." Julian left his luggage and headed to the second floor. The cafeteria was empty, and after wandering around for a moment, a voice called out to him. "Hey kid, what are you doing?" I," Julian said awkwardly. "The boss told me to come down and eat." "You're Julian Jean?" Surprised, Julian managed and "Wait here." A staff member in a chef's uniform disappeared into the back kitchen and returned with a tray of food. 3 dishes and a soup, all set aside in a steamer, still piping hot when they were brought out. There were steamed pork ribs, eggplant with minced pork, stir-fried lettuce, and a fish and pickled vegetable soup. Julian took the chopsticks, said thanks, and began to devour the food. He couldn't believe that a meal he once would have considered ordinary now tasted so exquisitely delicious. He finished everything in about 5 minutes. By the time the staff member came back out, only a stack of clean plates remained on the table. "Back in the office." "Full." "Yeah, good. Then we can talk business," Wyatt said with a smile. "Starting tomorrow, you're an official employee of Investments. Your main job is to be my driver, but you'll also be taking on some assistant duties." Before Julian could respond, Wyatt pointed to a box on the coffee table. "Go on, open it. See what's inside." Curious, Julian walked over and opened the box. Inside was a brand new suit and a new pair of leather shoes. The suit is from some British brand, can't remember the name, but it cost me about $8,000. You should recognize the brand of the shoes. That one pair could buy you 50 pairs of the ones you're wearing now. I want you to wear them to work tomorrow. Your hours are flexible. You're on call 24/7. Whenever I call, you answer." Wyatt quickly added, "Oh, right, forgot to tell you. Your dad works for me now, too. You can go home and rest for the rest of the day, or you can go downstairs and say hello to him." "My dad works here." "What? Is that a problem?" Julian didn't answer. He looked at the suit and shoes on the table, and suddenly felt that these expensive things weren't enough to make him happy. He paused for a long time before asking, "Can I start the day after tomorrow?" "Reason? I want to go see my mom." Wyatt was taken aback for a second, then smiled. "Do you hate her?" Julian replied, "Everyone else can hate her. I can't." "Go on then. Get the van keys from my assistant at the front desk. That car is yours to drive from now on." Julian picked up the clothes and shoes, got the keys from Abby, and drove home. Nothing in the house had changed. It just felt emptier. He sat on the sofa in a daze for the entire afternoon. When he saw the sun begin to set, he finally got up and went into the kitchen. He opened the fridge. Besides beer, there were only a few tomatoes, 2 potatoes, and some eggs. He took them out and, with a surprising degree of skill, began to prepare dinner. A plate of scrambled eggs with tomatoes. A plate of shredded potatoes. By the time the rice was cooked, the 2 dishes were ready. He set the table and sat down to eat. Halfway through his meal, Henry Jeong pushed open the front door. Seeing Julian at home, he froze for a full 5 seconds before taking off his shoes and walking in. Not a single word was exchanged between father and son. Henry simply walked into the kitchen, saw there was still rice in the cooker, and filled a bowl for himself, sitting down across from Julian. After a long silence, Julian finally spoke. "Dad, I want to go see Mom tomorrow." Henry gave a soft grunt of acknowledgement. Julian picked up his empty bowl and chopsticks, took them to the kitchen, and then went to his room. The moment the bedroom door clicked shut, Henry took off his glasses. Tears streamed down his face. Some people only learn to cherish what they have after they've lost it. 3 months is a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of a lifetime, but for Julian, it had been an eternity. It felt as if the emotions of the past decade couldn't compare to the raw reality of these last 3 months. The next day, through his father's arrangements, Julian went to see Kathy Chun. When Kathy saw how tan and thin Julian had become, she became immediately emotional. She frantically asked what had happened to him over the past few months. Julian calmly explained that Wyatt had forced him to go to Riverwood. Unexpectedly, Kathy began to curse Wyatt's name. Julian was silent at first, but as Kathy's tirade continued, he suddenly roared, "Mom, stop it!" Kathy froze. It was the first time her precious son had ever yelled at her. She stared at Julian, a sense of unfamiliarity creeping in. Her lips trembled, and she didn't know what to say. Julian said, I don't hate him at all. Mom, the truth is, we were the ones who were wrong. Kathy said nothing. Julian continued, last night, when Dad and I were eating dinner, I noticed all the gray hairs at his temples. I tried to look back at the last 20 years from his perspective, and I suddenly realized how pitiful he is with his talent. He could have had a much better future. But ever since he had this family, it feels like we've been nothing but a burden to him. I wonder, if you and Aunt Caroline had switched places, would Dad's career have taken off like Uncle Ethan's? Why still be a loser who couldn't even get a college degree? Kathy's eyes turned red, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Julian, are you blaming me? Everyone else can blame you. I can't, Julian said, taking a deep breath. But if Dad wants to divorce you when you get out, I won't stand in his way. You might be a good mother, but you are definitely not a good wife. But don't worry, I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you have money. After Julian said this, Kathy finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face like a broken dam. She stubbornly wiped her eyes, her voice choked with sobs. What are you going to do now? I'm going to be Wyatt's driver. Julian laughed self-deprecatingly. Mom, don't think being a driver is some shameful job. Think about it. Besides driving, what else can your son do? I don't know how to do anything. Being a driver is the only thing I'm good for right now. Besides, it's not embarrassing to drive for Wyatt. His assistant told me the line of people who want his job could stretch from one side of the Brooklyn Bridge to the other. I never thought he was that impressive before, but after being in Riverwood, I realized he's so much better than me. Now that I have the chance to be his driver, I think I'll be able to see the gap between us even more clearly. Your dad. He's a legal consultant at Wyatt's company now. He had no choice. You cut off his path, so he had to find a new one. Mom, when you get out, please don't be so reckless with money anymore. It's only in these last few months that I've learned there's no real difference between $30 shoes and $300 shoes. A capable person will be respected even in generic clothes. A useless person is still a bum, even if they're covered in brand names. Julian, Kathy sobbed, unable to stop. She never imagined her son could change so much in just 3 months. She knew, of course, that the lessons Julian was talking about could only be learned through suffering. The thought of the hardships he must have endured made her heart ache with sorrow. The sky was overcast. Outside the kindergarten, a line of luxury cars was already forming. As soon as the bell rang, the children swarmed out of the classrooms. Teachers stood guard at the gate, only letting the kids leave the schoolyard after spotting their parents. Daddy, seeing Wyatt was the one picking her up today, Ellie Sue came running over. Wyatt squatted down to pick her up, and she immediately asked, How come you're picking me up today? Your mom said she wasn't feeling well. Ellie said, oh, then hugged Wyatt's head and pleaded, Daddy, I want a hot dog. Wyatt sighed. Is it that every time I pick you up, you ask for something? How come when your mom picks you up, you never ask her to buy you food? I want one. Ellie planted several kisses on Wyatt's cheek, her voice dripping with sweetness. Please buy me one? Pretty please. The little girl's tactic was foolproof. Wyatt had zero resistance and gave in immediately. All right, fine. We'll get one. There's a convenience store not far from the kindergarten with a hot dog roller right by the door, its aroma wafting out and making mouths water. 3 hot dogs, please. Bag one of them up, and I'll take the other 2 now. You got it. Wyatt took the hot dogs, kept one for himself, handed one to his daughter, and planned to bring the last one home for his wife. Ellie held the hot dog in one hand, her mouth greasy after just a few bites. Her other hand held Wyatt's, and she skipped happily toward the car. But after a few steps, Ellie stopped. Wyatt followed her gaze and saw that his daughter was staring at a homeless man. In New York, homeless people were a common sight, but Ellie was still young enough to be filled with curiosity at the sight of the man in his ragged clothes. Daddy, that man looks so sad. It's cold, and he's not wearing much. Wyatt gave a soft hum of agreement. Ellie asked curiously, don't they have jobs? Wyatt shook his head. Not everyone in this world has a job. That's why Ellie has to study hard in school, so that one day you can help more people get jobs. Ellie pouted and continued walking. No way. Evan and Henry said school is tiring. I don't want to study. Let my little brother study hard instead. What little brother? I dreamed about him. Wyatt was intrigued. You dreamed about a little brother? Yep. My little brother played with me for a long time in my dream. Wyatt was baffled, but felt it was a good omen. He lifted Ellie into the car, wiped her greasy mouth with a couple of napkins, and drove home. He pushed open the door and saw Chloe sitting on the sofa, smiling as she played on her phone. Wyatt was puzzled. Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? Why aren't you lying down upstairs? Chloe beckoned to him. Come here. What is it? Just come here. Wyatt walked over, handing her the hot dog. Chloe took it and said with a wide grin, You brought me a hot dog, so I have a gift for you, too. What gift? Chloe pulled a pregnancy test from behind her back and handed it to Wyatt. He took it, and his eyes widened in shock. He looked at Ellie, then at Chloe, and two words instinctively escaped his lips. Holy shit. Are you crazy? No, it's just, on the way home, Ellie told me she dreamed about having a little brother, and then I walk in and you show me this. You tell me that's not a holy shit moment. Chloe's brow furrowed as she looked at Ellie. Ellie, did you really dream about a little brother? The little girl nodded obediently. Chloe broke into a huge smile. That's wonderful. I really want a son. While they were happy, they weren't ecstatic. They'd been through this once before. After calming down, Wyatt started a group video chat with the family. Sarah, David, Charles, and Miranda all joined quickly. Dad, Mom, I have an announcement to make. The four of them seemed to guess what Wyatt was about to say, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Wyatt cleared his throat and held up the pregnancy test. Well, we have not failed in our duty. Baby number 2 is on the way. You may now commence celebrating. That's fantastic. Your mother was just talking about this the other day. The family chatted happily for a while. Miranda eventually laid out a plan. After the new year, Chloe, you'll stay in Riverwood. Sarah, you can go to New York to take care of Wyatt and Ellie. Once the baby is born, you can come back. How does that sound? Sarah quickly agreed. I have no problem with that. David and Charles naturally had no objections either. The plan sounded reasonable to Wyatt. If Chloe stayed in New York, there would be no one to look after her. Since his mother-in-law suggested she stay in Riverwood, she had clearly already prepared to resign from her job to care for Chloe full-time. Okay, let's do that, Wyatt confirmed. You all keep chatting. I'm going to make dinner. I'll take Chloe to the doctor for a checkup tomorrow morning. News of Chloe's second pregnancy spread quickly through their circle of friends. The next morning, Wyatt took Chloe for her appointment. The thought of having to cook when they got home was unappealing. So after the checkup, he took her to the office so they could eat in the company cafeteria and save himself the trouble. The days that followed fell into a comfortable rhythm. Wyatt worked from 9 to 4, taking on the duty of dropping off and picking up Ellie from school. Chloe, back at home, resumed her life of being waited on hand and foot. Wyatt had long since hidden the bathroom scale, and Chloe's figure slowly and imperceptibly grew fuller. After starting at the company, Julian's life was much easier than it had been on the construction site. In the time leading up to the new year, his position as Wyatt's driver exposed him to many influential people he had previously only seen on TV. Although he usually wasn't permitted to be present during their meetings, on rare occasions, he was allowed to sit on the sidelines and listen to these titans talk. At first, Julian didn't think their conversations were anything special, just chatter. It wasn't until Wyatt, on a whim one day, started explaining the subtext behind every sentence that a whole new world opened up for him. He learned that behind the most ordinary-sounding phrases lay incredibly deep meanings. For instance, when a boss says, "This young man has a lot of potential," it's not necessarily a compliment. It means, "You're still green." When a business partner says, "We should think this over carefully," it means, "We need to renegotiate this. Let's finalize it next time." When someone says, "This is very difficult to do," it means the matter is negotiable, and the key is how much you're willing to offer. There's an old saying, "A gentleman uses his words, not his fists," but there's another that says, "Loose lips sink ships." Language is a profound art, Wyatt explained. What you need to do now is listen more and think more. You'll have truly grown when you can understand the hidden meaning in every sentence without me having to point it out. Wyatt chuckled. Earlier, when I was talking with the city official, I told you to go get my thermos from the car. If that had been Abby, she would have taken her sweet time coming back because she would have understood that I was deliberately sending her away. Not you. There was perfectly good water on the table, and I asked you to get my thermos, and you just went and did it like a fool. It dawned on Julian. So that was the meaning. He suddenly became very curious. Wyatt was only a few years older than him. How did he come to understand all these nuances? He asked humbly, "Were you just born knowing this stuff?" No one is born knowing anything. Some people just catch on faster than others, Wyatt said with a grin. You've always thought I got to where I am today, through sheer luck, haven't you? Julian didn't answer, which was an admission in itself. It's a long road. You got a lot to learn. This year, Lunar New Year came early. It was usually in February, but this year, New Year's Eve fell on January 21st. With the end of the year approaching, there were many loose ends to tie up. The company's annual party wasn't held until the 28th of the lunar month. For the past few years, due to special circumstances, many people had worked from home, and the annual party had been canceled. So this year, everyone was particularly excited. However, before 10 o'clock, Wyatt used his wife and child as an excuse, dropped several large Venmo payments in the group chat, and had Julian drive him home early. Ellie was already asleep. Chloe was still in the living room, waiting for him. I told you not to wait up for me. It's early, I can't sleep anyway. You didn't drink, did you? Not much. Should I make you some tea? No need. Let's go up to bed. We're heading back to Riverwood tomorrow, and the day after is New Year's Eve. Okay. Passing the second floor, Wyatt paused again. You go on up. I'm just going to check if Ellie is tucked in. Chloe nodded and headed upstairs. Wyatt spent less than a minute in his daughter's room, then closed the door and went up to the third floor. After a shower, he was asleep within 2 minutes of lying down. Chloe had wanted to chat for a bit, but seeing him already asleep, she simply moved his arm to rest around her waist, closed her eyes, and quickly drifted off into her own dreams. Whenever it was the new year, Riverwood only had 2 types of weather: rainy or sunny. In Wyatt's memory, since 2008, Riverwood had only had a few decent snowfalls. Chloe had wanted Wyatt to take her up north to see real snow for a long time, but because Wyatt was always so busy with work, she never brought it up. It was drizzling when they returned to Riverwood this time, but since the next day was New Year's Eve, the roads were still bustling with people. At a traffic light, Wyatt's gaze was drawn to a young couple on an electric scooter waiting for the light to change. He wasn't sure if the woman, who had clearly put on some weight, was his old high school classmate, Jenna, but he felt no desire to confirm it. What are you looking at? Chloe asked. Oh, nothing. Just saw someone who looked familiar. Wondered if it was a classmate from high school. Pull over and ask. No need. They're just passers-by in life. Chloe deliberately set a trap. And what about me? Wyatt laughed. You're my treasure. Ellie poked her head forward and quickly asked, Daddy, what about me? Mommy is Daddy's big treasure, and you're Daddy's little treasure. Ellie pouted. I want to be Daddy's big treasure, too. Chloe protested. Hey, that's going too far. Your dad is my husband. He's only your dad. I don't care. I'm the big treasure. Mommy is the little treasure. I am. Mother and daughter bickered playfully in the car. Wyatt, a smile on his face, drove them all the way home. This year, the family was noticeably happier during the Lunar New Year celebrations, all thanks to Chloe's second pregnancy. Wyatt was an only child, and so was Chloe. No matter what, having just one daughter wouldn't have fully satisfied either set of parents. After a day of rest at home, the next day was New Year's Eve. Early in the morning, Ellie saw someone setting off poppets in the yard and began clamoring for Wyatt to buy some for her. Wyatt, insisting they were for boys, refused. David, unable to listen any longer, went out by himself and returned from some unknown fireworks stand with a huge pile of poppets and small fireworks. Ellie danced with joy and spent the entire afternoon playing ecstatically. New Year's Eve was the same as previous years. The feast began at 6:30 and lasted until 8, followed by watching the big New Year's TV special while making small talk. Ellie, exhausted from her afternoon of fun, was asleep in Wyatt's arms by 10. Sarah carried her off to bed. At this point, Wyatt began replying to his messages. For the first few days of the new year, aside from a visit to his aunt's house, Wyatt hardly went out. Chloe, bored out of her mind, insisted on making turnip cakes from scratch. She mixed the dough and, seeing the sun was out, placed a bowl by the door to let it rise. But while playing, Ellie accidentally knocked the bowl over, spilling the dough onto the ground. Ellie's smile vanished. Oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. Seeing her distress, Wyatt quickly comforted her. It's okay. You go watch TV. I'll just say that I'm the one who knocked it over. Ellie immediately complied. Just then, Charles was about to leave to visit a major banking client. The moment he stepped out the door, Wyatt yelled, Honey. Chloe emerged from the house, wielding a rolling pin. Wyatt immediately tattled. Your dad just knocked over the chair and the dough fell on the ground. He was afraid you'd yell at him, so he just drove off. Seeing her hard work ruined, Chloe's temper flared. She gripped the rolling pin, ready to give chase. Wyatt quickly stopped her. Forget it. What's done is done. It won't do any good to go after him. He's your dad, after all. Look, I think if we just peel off the outer layer, the rest is still usable. After much coaxing from Wyatt, Chloe finally calmed down. As they went back inside, father and daughter exchanged a look. Everything was understood without a word. On the 5th day of the new year, an auspicious day for weddings, J.C. and Mandy were set to be married. Since Chloe was pregnant and also suffering from slight migraine, Wyatt only brought Sarah, David, and Ellie, traveling with his aunt's family, to Philadelphia. The wedding itinerary had been planned long ago. At 8 in the morning, J.C. would drive from New York to pick up Mandy. After a meal with friends and family at a hotel, the bride's relatives would follow the groom's motorcade back to New York for the main wedding banquet at noon. The trip from Philadelphia to New York wasn't long, so there was plenty of time. In the spirit of avoiding extravagance, J.C. and Mandy's wedding wasn't overly grand. Wyatt didn't offer to bankroll his cousin's wedding just because he had money. His philosophy was to be low-key in his personal life and high-profile in his business, whereas J.C. was low-key in everything he did. Wyatt drove his A8, following the main wedding car. He listened as Sarah and his aunt discussed how much Mandy had changed over the past few years. He chimed in, "People don't learn when they're told. They learn when they experience things." Mandy spending these last few years with J.C. in that small town, she must have gone through a lot. Otherwise, she wouldn't have changed so much. G.C. looks like he comes from a good family. Your second aunt can rest easy with Mandy marrying him. If he weren't reliable, I never would have set them up in the first place. You set them up too? His aunt was very surprised. Wyatt grinned. Of course. I've played matchmaker for 4 or 5 couples at this point. It wasn't an exaggeration. There were Michael and Isabel, Leo and Sophie, Victor and Vivian, Sam and Abby. Ashley and Evan and Alex and Renee didn't quite count, but he'd had a hand in it. And then there were Judy and Zachary, who were probably getting close. Hearing this, his aunt immediately smiled. Well, when Riley graduates, you, as her older cousin, will have to help her out too. Auntie, don't you worry. I watched Riley grow up. I'll definitely take care of her future. The wedding motorcade arrived at the hotel entrance. G.C.'s parents and some relatives were waiting at the door. When they saw Mandy's family and friend arrive, they rushed out to greet them. Wyatt hadn't planned on getting involved, but as soon as he stepped out of the car, Caroline Jiang pointed at him and said to an elderly man beside her, "Dad, that's Wyatt." Caroline's father was Walter Chun. He had been in the military in his youth and later entered the political system, reaching a respectable position. He had no sons, only 2 daughters. The family had initially hidden Kathy's situation from the old man, but with J.C.'s wedding, he and his wife insisted on coming from D.C. Seeing her father was in good spirits. And since the outcome of the situation had been positive, Caroline had told him the whole story a few days prior. The old man, having seen his share of turmoil, listened in silence for a long time before calmly saying, "You learn from your mistakes." This was a hurdle she couldn't avoid. I hope Kathy has learned her lesson. In the following days, the old man noticed a significant change in his grandson, Julian. The boy who had always looked like a street punk now seemed remarkably well-behaved in his grandfather's eyes. His hair was cut in a neat crew cut, his clothes and shoes were simple, and he spoke much less. In truth, you could often tell a person's maturity by how much they talked. When a chatterbox suddenly becomes quiet, it means they've had a profound realization. This change was something the old man was happy to see. Having no sons of his own, he considered his grandson and his son-in-law's son to be the same. He even felt that this whole incident had happened at just the right time. Hearing that Julian's transformation was all because of Wyatt, the old man had developed a keen interest in him. And so, the moment Wyatt got out of his car, Caroline immediately introduced him. After being called out, Wyatt walked over and politely greeted him, "Grandpa." Since Mandy would be calling him that after the wedding, it was only right for him to follow suit. The old man grasped Wyatt's hand and laughed heartily. "A fine young man indeed. You are our family's benefactor." "Not at all, Grandpa. You're too kind. When you have time to visit D.C., you must come and see me." Of course. Since J.C. and Mandy were the stars of the day, Wyatt chatted with the old man for a few more minutes before being ushered into the hotel to be seated. There were quite a few guests. Although J.C. didn't have many relatives on his side, many of his father's colleagues and friends had come, a lot of whom held important positions. Wyatt had already met some of them at various events, but many were complete strangers. After the wedding banquet began, Wyatt had only a few bites before he picked up his wine glass and started making the rounds, chatting with those he already knew. These acquaintances would then naturally introduce Wyatt to the other people at their tables. As Wyatt mingled, clinking glasses and discussing current affairs, Julian's gaze remained fixed on him. The old man, with his sharp eyes, noticed. He looked at Julian, then at Wyatt. After the wedding ended, he quietly pulled Henry aside. "Henry, our family has done you wrong. You don't have to acknowledge me as your father-in-law, but in my eyes, you will always be my son-in-law, and Julian will always be my grandson." "Dad, don't say that. I'm not that kind of person. Julian is on the right path now. You absolutely must keep him by that young man," Wyatt sighed. "When Kathy gets out, I'll have her come to D.C. for at least the next 2 years. She won't be interfering in Julian's life." The company reopened on the 7th day of the new year. Wyatt, naturally, remained in New York, and Sarah stayed as well to take care of him and Ellie. Wyatt's uncle, after Mandy's wedding, drove his wife, Riley, and David back to Riverwood. With Chloe gone, life suddenly became dull. Every day after finishing his work, Wyatt would go home early. The time between 8 and 9 in the evening became his and Chloe's fixed video call time. The days passed one by one. When he was utterly bored, Wyatt would get together with a few friends. As the spring rains subsided and summer approached, May arrived. Wyatt woke up at his usual time of 7:30. By the time he came downstairs, Sarah had already combed Ellie's hair. Having Sarah at home was a huge help to Wyatt. "Daddy, yes. Tomorrow is Saturday. Can you take me out to play? All you think about is playing. Your cousin Henry has online English lessons with a tutor every day after kindergarten. Your mom wants me to find a tutor for you too." Ugh. Ellie wrinkled her nose and pouted, immediately refusing. "I don't want to." Wyatt had known for a long time that Ellie wasn't the academic type. He grinned. "That's why I didn't agree." Ellie's face immediately lit up. "Daddy's the best." Wyatt reached out and wiped the milk from the corner of her mouth. After breakfast, he gathered his things and said to Sarah, "Mom, if you're bored at home, you could go over to Walter's place and chat with Annie Wong. If you need a ride, just call my driver. He's on call anytime. What time do I have in the morning? I have to go grocery shopping and then clean the house. Suit yourself. Just call me if you need anything. Drive safely." "I will." Wyatt drove to the kindergarten. After getting out of the car, Ellie, with her backpack full of snacks, skipped towards the two teachers at the entrance. "Good morning, teachers." "Good morning, Ellie." In this expensive kindergarten, class sizes were small, and the teachers knew almost every child by name, especially the little tyrant of the younger class, Ellie. Among the 17 children in her class, Ellie was undoubtedly the liveliest. Wyatt stood outside the gate, waved, and called out, "Be good for your teachers at school. If you can learn, then learn. If you can't, then just eat more. Daddy paid good money for this." "I know," Ellie chirped and ran towards her classroom. The two teachers, hearing Wyatt's words, covered their mouths and giggled. Wyatt had just arrived at the office when Chris ran up to him with good news. "The paperwork for that piece of land has been approved. What's all the fuss about?" "It was expected. Is there any need to be so excited? I knew it would be approved, but I didn't expect it to be so fast." Wyatt smiled. "Do you know why?" Chris was curious. "Why?" Wyatt explained, "Because I promised the higher-ups that this year we would invest at least $500 million in small and medium-sized local enterprises in New York. We'll also co-host a startup competition with various university entrepreneurship offices. Austin has been poaching a lot of tech companies these last couple of years, and they're feeling the pressure. How come I didn't know about this? It's enough that I know. You don't need to worry about things like this. So, are we moving forward with the plan for the land as we discussed?" "Yes." Not long after Chris left, Cheryl Chun, the head of the finance department, came into the office. After Jessica left for D.C. to be the CEO of the branch, the position of finance head naturally fell to the most experienced and one of the company's earliest employees, Cheryl. In fact, Cheryl had taught Jessica a lot about finance in the early days, which was why the finance department had never had any major errors. "Chairman." The moment Wyatt saw it was Cheryl, he immediately put down his documents and frowned. "What's wrong?" Knowing Cheryl's personality, she wouldn't come to him unless there was a problem. So, the first glance told Wyatt that something was amiss. Kevin Jung from Investment Department 4. His travel and business entertainment expenses last month were $110,000. The month before that, it was $80,000. His personal reimbursement expenses last year were more than any other single department's. "Have you spoken to him about it?" "I have, but he didn't take it seriously. Said it was all for the company." Although Wyatt couldn't name many people in the company, he knew who Kevin Jung was. He had been poached from an investment firm in D.C. in 2020. His resume was flawless. He'd studied abroad, interned on Wall Street for 6 months, and, after joining the company, had indeed facilitated several promising investment projects. He was now in Investment Department 4, specializing in service industry investments. "Let me see the invoices." Cheryl stepped forward and handed the prepared invoices to Wyatt, explaining, "The bulk of it is from meals. A single dinner often costs tens of thousands. How can a meal be so expensive? The food isn't expensive, the liquor is. It's usually vintage top-shelf scotch as a baseline." Wyatt flipped through a few pages, then handed the invoices back to Cheryl. "Okay, I understand. You can go back to your work. I'll handle this." After Cheryl left, Wyatt continued to look at the documents on his desk as if nothing had happened. After lunch, Wyatt called Julian up to the third floor, and the two of them started a game of pool. "Julian, let me test you with a question." "What is it?" "Let's say you're the boss of a company. You have an employee who is very capable, but also embezzles from the company. How would you deal with him?" Julian blurted out, "Isn't that simple? If the value he creates for the company is greater than what he takes, you keep him. If it's less, you fire him. But if you keep him and others follow his example, how do you handle that? Then I guess you still have to fire him. But he has client resources and ongoing projects. Firing him could cause losses for the company. Then what do you do? I'm the one asking you. Julian shook his head. I don't know. Wyatt smiled. Have you ever heard the saying, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch? So you have to fire him. Yes. A person like that is a liability to the company. But you can't let him leave too easily. Julian frowned. What do you mean? We need to get some leverage on him. Like a puppet on a string. We tell him to raise his hand, he raises it. We tell him to bow, he bows. We have to make him too afraid to do anything that would harm the company's interests. Wyatt leaned over and sank the black ball. He straightened up and added, the internal control and compliance department should have been established long ago. This is the perfect opportunity to clean out all the rats in the company. Julian, remember this. Think before you speak and think before you act. Think about the consequences first, avoid all the bad outcomes, and then figure out the method. As long as it's not illegal, there's no such thing as a dirty trick. To achieve your goal, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. Only the winner gets to talk. That's how it is in history, and that's how it is in business. The internal control and compliance department was secretly established. As Chris had said before, this department was like the CIA of the company, taking orders only from the top and monitoring everyone else. The investigation into Kevin Jung had also begun in secret. Wyatt continued with his duties as usual. On Saturday morning, he slept in. In the afternoon, he took Ellie to the park to fly a kite. The next day was Sunday, which also happened to be Mother's Day. Wyatt spent some time drawing with Ellie at home, then used the excuse of going for a walk to get her out of the house. On the road, Wyatt asked, Ellie, do you know what day it is today? Ellie shook her head. Before starting kindergarten, she never paid attention to the day of the week. Now that she was in school, she only cared about how many days were left until the weekend. It's Mother's Day. Mother's Day? Yep, Wyatt nodded with a smile. So Daddy is going to the flower shop now to buy a bouquet for Grandma. I want one too. What do you want? Daddy's buying flowers for Grandma. So Ellie has to buy flowers for Mommy. Wyatt affectionately placed his large hand on Ellie's head and ruffled her hair gently. Okay, Daddy will order a bouquet online from Mommy in Ellie's name. You need to think about what you want to write on the card. Upon hearing this, Ellie immediately began to rack her brain. The flower shop was bustling today. Wyatt and Ellie waited in line for a long time before they could even get inside. Most of the flowers were pre-packaged bouquets of carnations. On Valentine's Day and other romantic holidays, roses were the best sellers. On Mother's Day, it was naturally carnations. In an era where love was becoming increasingly rare, flowers had become more cheap. You might find all sorts of flowers in the trash, but you would never find carnations. I'll take this one. Of course, sir. Would you like me to write the card for you? Or will you write it yourself? Wyatt smiled. Just put in a card that says something like, wishing you good health. No problem. Wyatt took the flowers, led Ellie back to the car, and then, on his phone, changed his location to Riverwood. He picked the flower shop with the highest rating and quickly ordered a bouquet of carnations to be delivered to their home address there. Ellie, have you thought about what to write on the card? Ellie pouted and shook her head. Wyatt chuckled. How about we just write, I'll love you forever? Ellie immediately nodded. Okay. Wyatt called the customer service line, said a few words, and then drove back home with Ellie. At home, Sarah was already busy in the kitchen. When she was home alone, she was never idle. She was either cooking, cleaning, or if she had nothing else to do, tending to the vegetable garden in the backyard, weeding and fertilizing. As soon as Ellie walked into the house, she eagerly shouted, Grandma, Grandma, Daddy bought you flowers. Hearing her voice, Sarah came out of the kitchen. Wyatt stepped forward and handed her the flowers. Mom, happy Mother's Day. You're spending money foolishly again. Sarah grumbled, but the smile at the corner of her mouth was impossible to hide. The older generation always liked to say one thing and mean another, so Wyatt had long since learned to act first and ask for permission later. He reached out, cupped Sarah's face, and gave her a quick peck on the forehead, only to be playfully slapped away. Seeing her grandma and daddy both smiling happily, Ellie had a thought. So on Mother's Day, you're supposed to buy your mom flowers and give her a kiss. She silently filed this away. This was what they called learning by example. 2 weeks later, the highest temperature rose to 82 degrees. It was the season for short sleeves and shirts again. And on this day, all the information about Kevin Jung was compiled and delivered to Wyatt. Wyatt casually flipped through a few audit reports. So, the scotch wasn't for drinking. It was just because it's easy to liquidate. That's right. The owner of the restaurant he frequents is his high school classmate. The liquor basically just went from his left hand to his right. The person reporting this to Wyatt was none other than Kathy Kai, who had joined the company around the same time as David and Irene. Wyatt had temporarily seconded her to take charge of this secret internal control and compliance department. Has Irene seen this stuff? She's seen it, and she said this is a relatively serious violation of reimbursement policy. The company can terminate his employment contract and pursue legal action. All right, you can go back to your work. After Kathy left, Wyatt thought for a moment, then called Chris and Carter into his office. We've got a mountain of work downstairs. Why'd you call us up here? Wyatt, unfazed, handed the evidence he had just received to them. Take a look at this. As Chris and Carter took the documents, their expressions immediately turned grim. He's definitely not clean. Wyatt asked, what's the status of the projects he's handling? They're close to signing the contracts. Find someone to replace him. Before you escort him out of the company, tell him that we will be keeping this evidence. If the projects he's handling don't get completed, or if there are any complications later, we will take legal action. Are we talking to him today? I've already waited half a month, Wyatt said. After he's gone, you can tell your teams about the new internal control department. We can use this as an opportunity to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. The news of Kevin Zhang's dismissal spread quickly throughout the company, serving as a wake-up call for all employees. For the next month, the company was calm, and nothing eventful happened. At the end of June, Wyatt received a call from Riley. She said her summer vacation was about to start, and she wanted to do an internship at the company. Wyatt thought for a moment and asked, New York or D.C.? Which company do you want to go to? Wyatt smiled. Then you'll go to D.C. Your aunt is bringing Ellie back to Riverwood for the summer, so it's not convenient for you to stay with me. Going to D.C. is a good opportunity for you to check on things for me over there. Jessica was the type of person who would suffer in silence to save face. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she would never report any problem she encountered to the head office. Wyatt operated on the principle of trusting the people he employed, so he hadn't interfered much with the D.C. branch. However, he worried that someone as single-minded as Jessica would have a hard time in D.C., and that her stubbornness might hinder the branch's development. If Riley went to D.C., Jessica certainly wouldn't put her in a grassroots position. Riley was majoring in public administration. If he just gave Jessica a heads up, she would likely keep Riley by her side. Jessica was smart, but her flaw was her inflexibility. With Riley there, he could also get a better sense of the situation. Okay, Riley agreed quickly. Wyatt replied, I'll let them know you're coming. Just tell me before you go, and I'll arrange for someone to pick you up. Got it. You haven't started dating this semester, have you, cousin? All right, I won't ask. After Ellie's school let out for summer vacation, Sarah prepared to take her back to Riverwood. In New York, Ellie would spend most of her time with her grandmother anyway. Back home, her grandparents, great-grandparents, and mother would all be there. Comparatively, going back home was clearly the better option. Wyatt had Julian take them to the train station. Before they left, Sarah nagged him endlessly, reminding him to eat his 3 meals a day on time, to avoid drinking if he went out to eat, and finally, she whispered a warning not to fool around, just because no one was watching. Wyatt was exasperated. How would I dare? Chloe checks in on me every single night. Good that you wouldn't dare. After seeing Sarah and Ellie off, life became even more boring. Wyatt ate breakfast and lunch at the company cafeteria, and in the evenings, he often went out for dinner with Chris and Leo. Tonight, the 3 of them were gathered at a roadside stall. By the way, that Black Myth, Wukong project from Game Science, is about 80% complete. It's expected to be released around this time next year. The trailer they posted on YouTube has a ton of views. Game Science was a company Wyatt had invested in when he was in Miami for Chris and Paige's wedding. They had been quietly developing for the past few years. Chris had only happened to see the video today and brought it up during dinner. Wyatt had almost forgotten about it. He chuckled. Maybe this game will become the hottest AAA title in the country. Leo, having worked at Arc Interactive for so many years, knew a lot about games. He quickly added, that's actually possible. There really isn't a single domestic AAA game that's truly impressive. I saw their trailer too. It's incredibly detailed, and the immersion is fantastic. But there are also a lot of naysayers online. After all, this game has been hyped for a long time, and a lot of people have lost faith in domestic games. The internet is full of all kinds of people, Wyatt said with a grin. Those guys are just getting high on their own supply. Leo and Chris asked in unison, what does that mean? It means they're either talking nonsense or completely clueless. When it comes to insults, you're still number 1. We should have invited Michael tonight. He doesn't have the time. His son just had his 1-month celebration. His parents are so happy they can't stop smiling. All his attention is on his son now. Leo asked, I heard from Sophie that Henry has already started taking lessons with a private tutor. Yeah, he's only in kindergarten. Wyatt smiled. The earlier you learn a language, the better. The Gold River Group has a lot of hotels overseas. It's normal for him to start learning English from a young age. Leo scratched his head. Should I find a tutor for my son then? That's up to you. I'm not considering it for Ellie, anyway. Why not? Wyatt took a sip of his Coke and explained, she's not the academic type. She's a girl, I'll let her be. I'm not going to let her study abroad in the future anyway. I wouldn't be comfortable with her being so far away from me. When is the second one due? End of September. That's soon. Boy or girl? Most likely a boy. For the first 10 days or so after Ellie returned home, she was in high spirits. But after being home for a while, the little girl started to miss her daddy. Every day, she would use Chloe's phone to send Wyatt countless voice messages. At first, Wyatt patiently replied to each one, but the endless chatting became too much. He eventually used the excuse of being busy with work and would reply to his daughter's messages in batches at noon and in the evening. A child's world is simple. Every time Ellie chatted with Wyatt, the first two sentences were always, "Daddy, I miss you so much," and "Mommy yelled at me again today." Wyatt would always reply, "Daddy misses you too," and "You have to listen to Mommy at home." Then at night, when Chloe and Wyatt video chatted, she would complain, "Ellie is more mischievous than a boy. She gets into trouble all day long. She's going to drive me crazy." Wyatt could only console her, saying, "All kids are like that." Whenever Chloe heard this, she would immediately say, "Just keep spoiling her." For the second baby, I'm determined to have a boy. Daughters are close to their fathers, so a son should be close to his mother. Wyatt would promptly reply, "Well, I hope you get your wish." But at the end of every video call, Chloe would reveal her true feelings, whispering in a sweet, coquettish voice from under the covers, "Dork, I miss you so much too." With his wife and daughter gone, the summer of 23 became the most boring summer Wyatt had ever experienced. It wasn't until one night in late August that a phone call from Riley finally lifted his spirits. "Cousin, go on, what happened?" It was already 9:30 at night. A call from Riley at this hour definitely meant something was wrong in D. "See," Riley quickly replied, It's just that Jessica seems to be having some trouble recently." "What kind of trouble?" "I'm not sure about the details. It seems like some official from a government agency is deliberately giving her a hard time. Jessica has gone to see them several times and even treated them to a meal, but the issue still isn't resolved. For the past few days, she's been staying at the office until 11 or 12 at night." Wyatt replied, "Okay, I understand. You go get some rest. I'll give her a call." "Oh." Wyatt waited 5 minutes, then dialed Jessica's number. Jessica glanced at the caller ID, her brow furrowing. She hesitated for a moment, but answered the call. "Hello, what are you calling me so late for?" Jessica asked preemptively. Wyatt cut to the chase. "All right, what's going on that has you staying at the office until midnight every day?" Jessica sighed in resignation. "So you sent your cousin to work with me just to spy on me? Is that not allowed?" "It is. I didn't say it wasn't. You're the chairman, after all. I just work for you," Jessica said self-deprecatingly. "Stop being so stubborn," Wyatt said bluntly. "It's late, and I'm in no mood for idle chatter. Just tell me what's going on over there." Jessica still hesitated. She took a deep breath and finally said, "There's a low-level manager at the IRS who wants me to date his son. I refused, so he's using a tax audit as an excuse to cause trouble for me, trying to make me give in. 2 projects the company was negotiating have been stalled because of this. Something this big, and you were trying to hide it from me? I thought I could handle it myself. At dinner the other night, they clearly said it was negotiable, but Wyatt's anger flared. I told you a long time ago, you just need to manage the branch's internal affairs. Leave dealing with the higher-ups to me. With the little schemes you have up your sleeve, they can play you however they want." Jessica raised her voice too. "If I have to call you for everything, what will the employees here think of me? I'm a chairman." Hearing this, Jessica instantly calmed down. She was silent for a long time before asking softly, "How are you going to handle this? Is he a big shot?" "No, I knew it. The king of hell is easy to see, but the little ghosts are hard to deal with. Doing business in that city is all about connections. Since we're dealing with a little ghost, we just need to bring out the king of hell." Wyatt sighed in relief. "Send me that guy's position and name. I'll fly to D.C. tomorrow." Perhaps because she had lived on her own from a very young age, Jessica's personality was different from most girls. In Wyatt's analysis, she was an extremely strong-willed and independent person, like an onion. You couldn't tell what was on the inside from the outside, but once you started peeling back the layers, you realized how much bitterness and sorrow she held within. She had proposed the idea of becoming the CEO of a branch office to Wyatt long ago. Her decision didn't surprise him in the slightest. If she had stayed at sea, investments, no matter what she achieved, the credit would have been shared among Wyatt, Leo, Chris, and Michael. But if she could build up the branch office in D.C., she could prove her capabilities to everyone. She wanted everyone to know that even though she was a woman, she wouldn't lose to the vast majority of men in business. Her management skills were indeed quite good. In the years since she came to D.C., the company had not had any major problems. When she left New York, Wyatt had only let her take 15 people with her. But now, the branch office was about to exceed 100 employees. This was the first time Jessica had encountered a situation like this. She never imagined that in this day and age, there would still be such shameless people. After hanging up, Jessica opened her messaging app and tapped on the chat with a man who had been harassing her for days. "Jessica, just give me a chance. My whole family is very happy with you. As long as you give me a chance, my dad will definitely stop making things difficult for you. Why aren't you replying to my messages again? /sad face." A few days ago, afraid of offending him, Jessica had forced herself to reply to a few messages. But now, seeing these nauseating messages, she didn't hesitate for a second. She blocked and deleted him in one swift move. After receiving the name from Jessica, Wyatt sent a voice message to Abby. "Abby, book me a flight to D.C. for tomorrow morning." Just as he sent the message, something occurred to him. He quickly retracted the message and sent a new one. "Book 2 tickets to D.C. for tomorrow morning." After sending the message, Wyatt called Julian. Julian was sitting on his bed, reading a book called Game Theory on his Kindle app. When he saw Wyatt's call, he answered instantly. "Hello, boss. Send your ID information to Abby. You're coming with me to D.C. tomorrow morning." Julian was curious. "Where are we going to D.C. for?" Wyatt replied. "To handle some business at the branch office." "Okay, I'll send it now." Wyatt grunted in acknowledgement and hung up, going to bed early. The next morning, Julian drove to Wyatt's gate. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Wyatt came out and got into the van. He casually asked, "Have you eaten?" Julian shook his head in embarrassment. Wyatt handed him a hard-boiled egg. "Eat this before you drive." "I'm fine." Wyatt didn't say anything, his hands still extended. Julian quickly shifted the car into neutral, took the egg, and started peeling it. "Boss, how long are we staying in D.C.? This time, don't know." Wyatt finished his egg and took a sip of milk. 2 or 3 days at most. "After I'm done, I'm going straight to Riverwood to pick up my wife and kid. You can go back to New York or stay in D.C. for a few more days." "Aren't your grandparents there?" "I don't think they'd want me to visit." "Why?" "They've never liked me, ever since I was a kid. Every time my cousin and I went to D.C., my grandparents were always so pleasant to him and gave me the cold shoulder." Wyatt chuckled. "And whose fault is that? Look at yourself for the reason. If you were your grandpa's age and had 2 grandsons, one well-behaved and one a street punk, do you really think you could treat them the same?" Julian said shamefully, "That was all because I was immature back then. Since I'm going to D.C., I'll definitely go visit. My mom's there too." Wyatt didn't reply. Julian finished his egg, started the car, and headed for the airport. He quickly asked another question. "My dad told me to stay away from my mom. As soon as she got out, my grandparents took her in. I think they also want her to stay out of my business." "Boss, there's no one else here. Call me by my name." "Wyatt, do you think I should stay away from my mom too?" Wyatt replied, "When you can judge right from wrong on your own, it won't be necessary." He paused for a moment and added, "You said something very good before. Anyone can hate your mom, except you. That day when I heard you say that, I was quite surprised. Your mom just spoils you excessively. She's not bad to you. It's just that her values are a bit off. Now that you can handle things on your own, it's not your mom managing you anymore, but you managing her. What about my parents? Their business is their business. Your business is your business. As long as you do what you should, you don't need to worry about them." After hearing this, Julian nodded instinctively, and a grin immediately spread across his face, as if a weight had been lifted. They arrived at the airport and checked in. After waiting for half an hour, they boarded the flight to D.C. With his phone in airplane mode, Julian couldn't play games. Unable to sleep, he asked Wyatt again what kind of trouble the branch office was in that required him to go personally. Wyatt said calmly, "A low-level manager at a government agency is targeting the company, causing trouble." "A low-level manager? How low?" "A section chief." "Huh. A pipsqueak official like that can cause trouble for the company." Wyatt smiled. "The king of hell is easy to see, but the little ghosts are hard to deal with. You have to understand, the higher up a person is, the more cautiously they act so they don't expose any vulnerabilities. It's precisely those people in the middle with a little bit of power who will abuse it. That does seem to be the case. Like my uncle, he's very, very low-key. And my cousin, too, still driving a used Volkswagen. Wyatt said, the boss of any company is friendly to the bottom-level employees, but can chew out the management until they're bleeding. Do you know why? Why? Because the grassroots employees have the least to lose. If you piss them off, they can risk everything to fight you. But management is different. They have a lot to lose, so no matter how much you yell at them, they'll just take it meekly. So, you're saying never piss off the quiet ones. That's the gist of it. Wyatt, so this time in D.C., how are you planning to solve this? Wyatt sighed lightly. It's just a matter of pulling some strings, bringing in a few higher-ups to put some pressure on him. An idea flashed in Julian's mind. Wyatt, you could go see my grandpa. Your grandpa? Yeah, Julian nodded. My grandpa's network is huge. People with stars on their shoulders come to my grandpa's house and have to call him Old Commander. Wyatt was stunned for a moment, then smiled. All right, then we'll pay your grandpa a visit first. Sounds good. Does your grandpa smoke or drink? He only drinks tea now. Find out where the best tea in D.C. is. We'll go buy some later. No need. You might not know any better, but I do. Julian chuckled and scratched his head. All right then. Julian's suggestion was an unexpected boon for Wyatt. If this matter could be resolved without using the connections he had worked so hard to build, it would certainly be a good thing. The flight from New York to D.C. was only 2.5 hours. At 10:30 in the morning, Wyatt and Julian deplaned. As they exited the airport, they saw the driver Jessica had sent to pick them up. Wyatt walked straight up to the driver, took the car keys, tossed them to Julian, and said to the driver, "You could just get a cab back. I have something to take care of somewhere else. Ms. Evans has already arranged a hotel. Then give me the room key too." Of course. Julian took the keys and got into the car. In the years after his parents had first married, whenever they fought, his mother would take him back to her parents' house. Julian was actually quite familiar with D.C. After Wyatt got in, he drove straight towards the city center. Wyatt, should I call my grandpa ahead of time to let him know we're coming? Good idea. While waiting at a red light, Julian called his grandfather. The old man on the other end was thrilled to hear that Julian and Wyatt were in D.C. and eagerly told Julian to bring Wyatt to his house. Julian said they were already on their way and hung up. They first went to a high-end tea shop near the National Mall and bought 2 pounds of the best tea. Then, Julian drove directly to the entrance of a historic alley. After a difficult search for a parking spot, Julian quickly got out and led Wyatt into the alley. The place had a rich, historical atmosphere, exactly as Wyatt had imagined. In a small town, every house in such an alley would be considered impoverished. The lane was extremely narrow, cluttered with all sorts of things along the walls. The entrances to the houses were small, and some even had their kitchens, perhaps only 10 or 20 square feet, right on the street. But in a place like this, even the area of a single bathroom will be enough to buy several houses in a small town. This is it, Julian said, pointing to an unremarkable gate. Wyatt looked up at the lintel. A stone plaque was carved with 4 large characters. Virtue carries all. The red lacquer door was inscribed with a couplet. On the right, cultivate oneself as if polishing jade. On the left, accumulate virtue rather than leave gold. The door was clearly very old. The paint had chipped in many places, revealing the wood underneath, giving it a sense of antiquity. Julian pushed open the gate, revealing a screen wall exquisitely carved with a longevity pattern. The courtyard was small, only about 100 square feet. To the left was a row of main rooms, with 2 smaller side rooms on the other sides, all of very limited size. Kathy had been beside her father when he received the call. Having not seen her son for several months, she rushed out as soon as she heard voices in the courtyard, calling out excitedly, "Julian!" Julian could only manage a casual response, his attention still on Wyatt. He pointed to the main house. "Wyatt, this way." Wyatt nodded. At that moment, the old man also came out to greet them. Wyatt quickly called out, "Grandpa," and followed him into the main house. Seeing Wyatt go in with his grandfather, Julian didn't forget to instruct his mother. "Mom, go boil some water. Grandpa and Wyatt will want tea later." With that, he followed them inside. Kathy was dumbfounded. "What's going on? You wanted to go boil water to make tea for your boss?" In the past, she would never have agreed. But in her years in D.C., the old man had sternly warned and disciplined his daughter. Plus, these were her own son's words, so Kathy obediently did as she was told. "You came all this way. You shouldn't have brought anything." Wyatt smiled. "I heard Grandpa doesn't smoke or drink anymore, so I just brought some tea. It didn't cost much. As a junior visiting an elder for the first time, I couldn't come empty-handed. Come, sit here." As soon as Wyatt sat down, Julian's grandmother went to prepare some pastries. Julian stood to the side for a long time, in an inexplicably good mood. When Kathy brought in the hot water, Julian helped steep the freshly bought tea. The old man hadn't even taken a sip, but the aroma alone made him smile. Good tea. Must have been expensive. Not at all. I'm no expert when it comes to tea. Good tea like this is meant for people like you who can appreciate it, Grandpa. It would be a waste on me. The old man laughed heartily. I usually just drink the cheap stuff. I can't bear to drink such fine tea on a regular day. Wyatt smiled without saying a word. The old man soon asked, what brings you to D.C. this time? Oh, Wyatt finally explained. I have a branch office in D.C., and we've run into a little trouble recently. I came to resolve it. As soon as Wyatt finished, Julian immediately spoke up. Grandpa, actually, the moment Julian started, Wyatt's sharp gaze shot over to him. Seeing it, Julian quickly shut his mouth. The old man caught this exchange and said with a smile, Wyatt, since you call me Grandpa, you should treat this place like your own home. Is there anything you can't say at home? Julian was also puzzled. Didn't we agree on this in the car? Why won't you let me speak now? Wyatt then smiled. It's not a big deal. It's just that a low-level manager here is using a tax audit as a pretext to deliberately make things difficult for my company. He's taken a liking to my branch manager and wants her to be his daughter-in-law. There's such a thing. Wyatt feigned helplessness. I never expected something like this to happen in D.C. I was planning on using the connections I built up to solve this. I didn't want to trouble you, Grandpa. When asking for a favor, one must have the right attitude. If you just mention it casually, even if the other person is willing to help, they might not be happy about it. After hearing the story, the old man asked tentatively, what's his name? Wyatt quickly replied, Andrew Zhao. Andrew Zhao. The old man seemed to find the name familiar. His wife, hearing this, quickly reminded him, isn't old Zhao's son named Andrew? Before 2018, they used to come to our house every New Year. After old Zhao passed away, his son stopped coming. Hearing his wife's reminder, the old man remembered. He leaned on his cane and said, if you hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten. Wyatt pressed, Grandpa, you know him? He's from Caroline and Kathy's generation. I've never dealt with him, but the old man deliberately paused for effect, then continued. But when I was a department director, his grandfather was just a junior staffer under me. Well. Wyatt was inwardly shocked, but remained outwardly calm. The old man was a man of action. He picked up the old-fashioned cell phone from the table. I'll just give him a call directly. I still have that much pull. Hearing this, Wyatt quickly said, Grandpa, please wait. Calling him about this is too direct. I'm afraid he'll agree on the surface, but have other plans behind my back. My branch isn't just going to be in D.C. for 3 or 5 years. What's your thought? If the old man called Andrew Zhao, given his status, he certainly wouldn't be polite. Andrew Zhao, out of deference, might not cause trouble for a while, but as Wyatt said, the company wasn't just going to be in D.C. for a few years. In other words, you could protect me for a while, but not forever. So it was best not to burn bridges if possible. Wyatt smiled. How about I set up a dinner? You could make an appearance then, Grandpa. That way, we don't offend him, and seeing your face, he probably won't continue to harass us. The old man nodded repeatedly after hearing this, then turned to his grandson and said, Did you hear that? Learn from him. Julian smiled and nodded. Meanwhile, Sean Zhao, who had been relentlessly pursuing Jessica, told his father, Andrew Zhao, during lunch that Jessica had blocked him. Andrew immediately pressed him. Did you say something she didn't want to hear? I told you, dating needs to be a slow and steady process. A woman who could be a president at an investment firm is not that easy to fool. I didn't. Sean explained hastily. I didn't send anything weird. She just wouldn't reply to me. I'd send 10 messages, and she wouldn't even send one back. Dad can't help you too much with this. If she gets desperate, she might even report me for abuse of power. Dad, all right, let's eat first. I'll just be direct with her this afternoon and see what she says. Wyatt stayed at the house and had lunch with the old man. Despite the large age gap, they had plenty of common topics. They chatted about everything from international relations to history, and from history to modern famous figures. Wyatt wasn't much of a history buff, but as everyone knows, in a college dorm, there are only 2 main topics of conversation for guys: women and history. The corresponding topics for girls' dorms are men and gossip. If a recording of a girls' dorm conversation were to be leaked, it would at most lead to social ruin. But if a recording of a guy's dorm conversation were to be leaked, the lightest sentence would be life in prison. Every time such topics came up, Alex was always the most enthusiastic. When that guy started bragging, not even the gods could stop him. One moment he'd say, if Germany had been in my hands back then, they wouldn't have. And the next, if I were the young marshal, the Northeast would never have. And finally, he'd praise the domestic aircraft carriers and fighter jets as if he had built them himself. And when Chris heard Alex's bragging, he would deliberately take the opposing side to argue with him. One was a conservative, the other a progressive, and they often argued until they were red in the face. Wyatt sometimes suspected that if they had a sandbox in the dorm, they might actually start a war on it. Chatting with the old man, Wyatt listened more than he spoke, occasionally throwing in some unverified history he had heard from Alex, which the old man would then analyze for its authenticity. And so, by the end of the meal, the old man was reluctant to let Wyatt leave. Finally, unable to keep him any longer, he just said, "Before you go back to New York, you have to come back to the house one more time." Wyatt readily agreed. As he was leaving, Kathy was still clinging to Julian, nagging him with a long list of things. Finally, unable to take it anymore, Julian just replied, Okay, I know." Watching Julian drive away with Wyatt, Kathy felt a pang of bitterness. She couldn't understand how her son, who had always been so close to her, was now so distant, yet calling an outsider Wyatt with such familiarity. Seeing his daughter's sorrowful expression, the old man said meaningfully, "You should be in your room, secretly celebrating that Julian has become like this." Kathy was taken aback, her eyes filled with confusion. "Wyatt, where are we going now?" "To the office to have a look." Julian said, "Oh," and drove to the office building of C. Investments D. C. Branch. Land in D. C. was incredibly expensive. Since it was just a branch, there was no need to buy an entire office building. The branch had rented a floor of about 15,000 square feet in the K Street CBD area. After getting out of the car, Wyatt took Julian up the elevator to the company's floor. Just as they reached the entrance, they ran into a familiar face. Chairman Fiona Wong was stunned for a moment, not quite processing it. Fiona had joined the company around the same time as Greg Peters and was definitely one of the company's old guards. She was also one of the few confidants Jessica had brought over from New York. "Is Ms. Evans in?" "She is." "All right, you could go back to what you were doing." Fiona gave a slight bow and went back to her work. Wyatt walked into the company, glanced at the people in the office area, and then headed straight for Jessica's office. Julian, with his newfound awareness, stayed behind in the break room, not following Wyatt. After spending so much time with Wyatt, he had developed at least that much perceptiveness. Knock, knock. Wyatt knocked twice before entering, and upon hearing a familiar voice from within, he pushed the door open. "What's wrong? You look so down." Jessica looked up suddenly. Seeing Wyatt, she held up her phone. "Andrew Zhao just called me and laid it all out. He said as long as I date his son for 3 months, regardless of the outcome, he won't bother me again." "And how did you reply?" "I said I'd think about it." Wyatt smiled. "Not bad. You've learned how to play the game. In the past, with your personality, you probably would have just cursed him out." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Are you mocking me?" Wyatt ignored her, walked over to the water cooler, poured himself a glass of water, and then said to Jessica, "You've been in D.C. for a while now. You must have met a lot of people. Haven't you found anyone suitable? Men can't be trusted. If men can't be trusted, what can be? Money." Wyatt was baffled. "I give you an annual salary of $15 million. Are you still short on money? Have you ever met a rich person who complains about having too much money?" Wyatt chuckled. "Did you know that people with a net worth between 50 and 100 million are actually the happiest? I'm afraid if I find a man and we get divorced later, I'll have to give him half of my assets." Wyatt was defeated. He gave her a thumbs up. "Fine, just pretend I didn't say anything." Jessica brought the topic back. "Since you're here, how are you going to handle this?" "You call it back later. Invite him and his son to lunch tomorrow. I'll show up a little late. I have to go pick someone up." "Who?" "You'll find out tomorrow at noon." For some reason, the moment she saw Wyatt, Jessica, who had been troubled for a long time, felt a sense of peace. Her brow relaxed, and she started asking about Wyatt's family life. "I hear your wife's second baby is due soon?" "You've got good sources." Wyatt sat down and crossed his legs. "It's soon. The due date is in about a month. Boy or girl? Don't know. I know doctors won't tell you the baby's gender, but for a big boss like you, it should be easy to find out your child's gender, right?" Wyatt explained, "There's no need. A boy or a girl, it's all the same. Knowing in advance just ruins the surprise." Their small talk ended there. Jessica quickly had someone bring over the investment proposals the company was currently reviewing, wanting Wyatt to see which projects had more investment value. Although Jessica had often clashed with Wyatt back at the New York head office, in her opinion, his investment acumen was second to none. Wyatt took the project proposals and began to read them seriously. Jessica watched him for a while, then forced her gaze elsewhere. Jessica had no idea Wyatt was bringing Julian along, so she'd only booked one hotel room. When they pulled into the hotel garage in D.C., Julian offered to go get his own room, but Wyatt shut him down. "This is a five-star hotel, Julian. Do you have any idea how much one night costs?" Julian scratched his head, embarrassed. He was completely broke. "If lunch tomorrow goes well, I'll probably head back to Riverwood the day after," Wyatt said. "You can crash on the sofa for a couple of nights. We'll ask housekeeping for an extra blanket." Even at the end of August, Washington, D.C. was still sweltering. Julian had slept in factory dorms back in Riverwood. 2 nights on a plush hotel sofa was nothing to complain about. The two of them took the elevator up to their floor. The second Wyatt swiped the keycard, he cranked up the AC. He settled onto the sofa and started scrolling through messages on his phone while Julian, feeling a bit awkward, headed into the bathroom to shower. They hadn't been in the room for 10 minutes when a video call request from Chloe popped up on Wyatt's screen. He answered, and Chloe's face, noticeably rounder now, filled the screen. She immediately pegged his location. "Where are you?" she demanded. "A hotel. What are you doing at a hotel?" "I'm in D.C. for a business trip," Wyatt explained. Chloe's voice was sharp with indignation. "You didn't even tell me. I got the call after we hung up last night. I had to fly out first thing this morning. What are you doing in D.C.? The branch office here ran into a little trouble. I came to sort it out." Wyatt turned the question back on her. "Where's Ellie?" "It's late. She's in her room, of course. Your dad is putting her to sleep." Just as Wyatt was about to reply, Chloe's voice shot up several octaves, like someone had stepped on her tail. "Wait, stop. Don't say another word. Are you crazy? You're going to give me a heart attack. I think I hear running water. Is there some girl in the bathroom taking a shower?" The bedroom door was open, and you could faintly hear the shower, but for her to pick it up through the phone's microphone was impressive. Wyatt couldn't help but laugh. "You've got some sharp ears. You'd better give me a straight answer, right now." He finally explained. "I brought Julian with me. They only got us one room, so I told him he could crash on the sofa." "I don't believe you." "Hang on." Wyatt got up and walked to the bathroom door. "Julian," he called out. "Yeah," came a muffled reply. "Say hi to your sister-in-law." "Huh." Those two monosyllabic grunts were enough to prove it was a man in the shower. Chloe's tone softened, but it was still a warning. "Next time you go on a business trip, you give me advance notice." Wyatt decided to tease her. "Can't I have any freedom? Who's the head of this household? You or me? What do you think this is?" Chloe aimed the camera down at her belly. Her due date was only a month away, and she was huge. "Don't forget, your son is still in my custody." Wyatt immediately snapped to a mock salute. "Yes, ma'am. My mistake, ma'am." They chatted for another 10 minutes. By the time Julian came out of the bathroom, Chloe was no longer in the mood for sweet nothings. She told Wyatt to get some rest and hung up. It was only then that Julian realized the real reason Wyatt hadn't let him get his own room. He was afraid his wife would be doing a surprise inspection. The night passed without incident. The next day, Wyatt woke up naturally around 8 and started practicing a set of Baduan Jin exercises in the open space of the living area. His workload had gotten so intense lately that his workout time had dwindled. He'd seen a lot of doctors online recommending the traditional Chinese exercises and decided to practice them whenever he had a spare moment. He was only 27, but he could already feel he wasn't the same as he was at 18. Back then, at least, his back didn't hurt. "Wyatt, what are you doing?" Julian asked, emerging from the bedroom. "Working out." Wyatt continued moving through the fluid motions. "Go get washed up. We'll grab breakfast upstairs, and then we need to go pick up your grandfather." Julian nodded quickly and rushed to get ready. After breakfast at the hotel, Jessica sent over the address for their lunch meeting. It wasn't close, so they set off quickly, finding themselves once again in a quiet, historic neighborhood. At 11:30, Jessica and her assistant arrived at the restaurant. To her surprise, Robert Zhao and his son, Michael, were already there. Seeing them waiting in the private room, her expression instantly cooled. The nerve of these two, she thought. Robert Zhao, however, put on a polite face. "Jessica, it's just the 4 of us. You didn't need to book such a large room." Jessica remembered Wyatt's instructions from the day before and softened her expression slightly. "Oh, we have a few more people joining us. Mr. Zhao, you can go ahead and order. They should be here any minute." The moment Jessica appeared, Michael's eyes were glued to her. As the former campus queen of their university, she was still a knockout. But Robert Zhao's ears perked up. He knew this lunch was more than it seemed. He had assumed Jessica was finally ready to compromise, but it was now clear she had brought in reinforcements. For some reason, a knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. They waited for about 15 minutes. Julian finally pulled the car up to the curb. Wyatt opened his door and helped the old general out of the back seat. Julian locked the car and followed them into the restaurant. Knock, knock. At the sound, Jessica's tense shoulders finally relaxed. She gave her assistant a look, and the young woman immediately got up to open the door. Wyatt entered, supporting the general by the arm. Mr. Zhao, let me introduce you. This is the chairman of C. Investments, Wyatt. And this is... Jessica trailed off, unsure how to introduce the old man. But she didn't need to. From the moment the general stepped into the room, Robert Zhao's eyes went wide. General, what? What are you doing here? He was stammering. The general, a man who had commanded respect in both the military and the political world, just snorted, his voice booming with energy. What? Am I not welcome? General, of course not. To be able to have a meal with you is an honor I wouldn't dare dream of, Robert Zhao said, forcing a sycophantic smile. Jessica was stunned. She couldn't believe the old man with Wyatt could make a fox like Robert Zhao lose his composure so completely. Zhao scrambled to pull out the chair at the head of the table for the general to sit. Wyatt naturally took the seat beside him. He then shot Jessica a look, and she quickly understood, moving to the seat next to Wyatt. Michael had intended to follow, but Julian was no longer the pushover he once was. He plopped down in the chair next to Jessica and poured himself a cup of tea. Michael didn't know Julian, but with the general and Wyatt present, Julian was brimming with confidence. He completely ignored Michael's simmering glare. Jessica, have you ordered? The general asked. Mr. Zhao took care of it. Just then, a waiter came in with a bottle of top-shelf single malt scotch. Wyatt had him open it and immediately poured 2 glasses, keeping one for himself and handing the other to Robert Zhao. Mr. Zhao, I hope my dropping in isn't an intrusion. Robert Zhao glanced at the general's stony face, then quickly raised his glass and shook his head. Not at all, not at all. I've long heard that the chairman of C. Investments was a young prodigy. I just never imagined you'd be this young, Mr. Wyatt. It really is, as they say, the next generation is always more impressive. After his awkward toast, Zhao took a sip of scotch and tried to probe their relationship. General, are you and Mr. Wyatt? The general stated it plainly. He calls me Grandpa. What do you think our relationship is? The smile on Robert Zhao's face froze solid. How is that possible? He thought. Weren't the general's 2 grandsons a good-for-nothing playboy and a low-level government worker who's been in the system less than 4 years? Throughout the entire meal, Wyatt never once mentioned the branch office issue. The conversation was all polite, meaningless table talk. Wyatt would occasionally raise his glass to Robert Zhao, making the man increasingly uncomfortable. He wasn't a fool. The moment the general had walked in, Zhao knew Wyatt's game. He was terrified Wyatt would bring up the subject and put him in an impossible position. Who was the general? He was a living legend, a decorated hero from the Vietnam War. When Zhao's own father was alive, he had treated the general with the utmost reverence, never daring to say a word out of line. Zhao vividly remembered how, every year when he accompanied his father to the general's house for Christmas, his father would drill him on what to say, how to behave, how to be perfectly respectful. Even though the general had been retired for years, the stream of visitors to his home every holiday season could wear down his doorstep. The least significant of those visitors was still leagues above anyone Robert Zhao could ever hope to meet. So, as the lunch wore on, Zhao's confidence evaporated. He felt like a small child who had been caught doing something wrong, his anxiety growing with every passing minute. Mr. Zhao, let's call it a day, Wyatt finally said. Next time I'm in D.C., I'll be sure to treat you to dinner. Yes, of course. Only then did Wyatt drop a hint. My company is just getting its footing in D.C. I hope you'll be able to look out for us in the future, Mr. Zhao. Absolutely. Both men wore brilliant smiles, but beneath the surface, a silent battle was being waged. Jessica sighed internally, feeling utterly outclassed. This kind of smiling knife diplomacy, she thought, is a job for a fox like Wyatt. General, shall I have Julian drive you home? Wyatt asked. No need. You go handle your business. I have a few things to take care of here. Wyatt nodded and turned to Julian. You're off the hook. Stay with Grandpa. Julian grunted in agreement and remained behind as Wyatt left with Jessica and her assistant. The general wasn't leaving. Robert Zhao didn't have the nerve to leave. Michael looked around, bewildered, clearly not grasping the gravity of the situation. Julian closed the door. Okay. Julian walked over and shut the heavy door to the private room. As it clicked shut with a solid thud, a shiver ran down Robert Zhao's spine. Ordinarily, for a trivial matter like this, I would have just given you a call, the general began, his voice low and steady. But Wyatt said that would cause you to lose face. I understand his meaning perfectly. I'm over 80 years old. I don't have many years left. He's afraid that I can protect him for a time, but not forever. He worries that once I'm gone, you'll use what little power you have to cause trouble for him, which would be an even bigger headache. That's why we had this lunch today. The boy gave you every opportunity to save face. General, you misunderstand. This is all just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? The general snorted in derision. I don't think so. With the piddling amount of authority you have now, you're already capable of this. If you were to climb another rung or two up the ladder, wouldn't you be snapping at everyone you meet? A cold sweat broke out on Zhao's forehead. Is this it? He thought. Is my career over? When your father served under me, he was an honest, upright man. How did he end up with a son like you? Screech. The chair beneath Robert Zhao slid back a few inches, its legs scraping harshly against the floor. He could no longer sit still. With a thud, he fell to his knees beside the table, sweat pouring from his brow. General, I was wrong. The general said nothing more. He simply stood up, leaning on his cane. Julian tore his gaze away from the kneeling man and moved to help his grandfather out of the room. Robert Zhao was left on the floor, on the verge of tears. Michael stared, completely lost. Dad, what are you? Zhao pushed himself up from the floor with a trembling hand. Seeing his son's clueless, innocent expression, he unleashed all his pent-up fury. He raised his hand and slapped Michael hard across the face. You worthless piece of trash. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this mess today. The slap stunned Michael into silence, his mind a complete blank. Robert Zhao leaned against the table, gasping for air, his mind racing. Should I buy a gift tonight? Should I go to the general's house and properly apologize again? If the general really decides to pursue this, it will be a catastrophe for the entire Zhao family. On the drive back, Jessica took the initiative. Where did you find that living legend? Didn't you hear me call him Grandpa? As far as I know, your parents and all your relatives are ordinary people. Wyatt finally explained. Do you remember Mandy? My cousin. Of course. She interned at the company. How could I forget? Her boyfriend interned at the same time. G. See? Yeah. Wyatt nodded. They just got married at the beginning of the year. The general is J.C.'s grandfather. I call him Grandpa out of respect, just like they do. My driver, Julian, is also the general's grandson. I see. Jessica's curiosity was piqued. So what's the general's story? That Robert Zhao looked like he'd seen a ghost during lunch. Wyatt just smiled and shook his head. Honestly, I don't know all the details, and it's not my place to ask. So how are you going to repay this favor? Keeping Julian by my side is how I'm repaying it. You probably wouldn't believe it, but a year ago, he was just a street punk. I never expected him to mature this quickly. Maybe he was just a late bloomer. The alcohol had made Wyatt sleepy. He leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. Once my second kid is born, I'm not going to meddle in company affairs so much. When he's grown, he can take over. That won't be for ages. 20 years will pass in the blink of an eye. Think about 10 years ago. Does it feel that distant to you? Well, Wyatt rested at the hotel for the afternoon. When he woke up in the evening, he took a walk through Georgetown, buying some D.C. souvenirs to bring back to Riverwood. The next morning, he paid another visit to the general's house to express his gratitude, then used the excuse of catching a flight to leave. Julian drove him to the airport. 2.5 hours later, his plane landed at Riverwood Regional Airport. Wyatt grabbed a cab and headed home. The entire morning had been spent in transit. On the way, he toyed with an idea. Should I buy a private jet like the Yu family? It would make travel so much more convenient, and it's not like I can't afford it. He ultimately dismissed it. For one, it was too flashy. For another, he felt safer on the ground than in the air. Besides, he didn't travel that often. Daddy. The moment Wyatt walked through the door, little Ellie saw him and came running, her arms outstretched. Wyatt dropped his bags and scooped her up. His father, David, came over and carried the shopping bags inside. Where's Chloe? Upstairs. And Mom? And Miranda? Your mom doesn't drive. They went to the supermarket together. Wyatt quickly handed Ellie over to his dad. Dad, can you take her outside to play for a bit? You brat. You just got home and you're already trying to kick me out? I want to go be sweet with my wife. David said nothing, simply turned and carried his granddaughter out the door. Wyatt stayed home for 2 days. The day before preschool started, he packed up his wife, kids, and parents and moved the whole family back to their home in New York City. Once school was in session, life settled into a peaceful rhythm. For the final month of the pregnancy, the family's entire focus was on Chloe. Wyatt counted down the days, and the big day arrived right on schedule. With the experience of their first child, the second birth was much smoother. Wyatt's nerves weren't nearly as frayed as they had been the first time. When the delivery room doors opened and a nurse emerged, holding a crying newborn, she announced to the waiting family that it was a boy. Wyatt was the first to break into a wide grin. It really was a boy. Ellie's dream had been right. Before Ellie was even born, Wyatt had already picked out names for both a boy and a girl. So, the little one had a fine name from the moment he was born in. After Ian's birth, his grandmothers, Sarah and Miranda, took over his care completely. Wyatt went back to his usual routine, heading to the office every day, though he now made a point to leave early to pick up Ellie from preschool. The company was growing, and so was the workload. Some things Michael, Leo, and Chris could handle. Some things they couldn't, and that's when Wyatt had to step in. At the end of October, in early November, Wyatt posted 2 personnel announcements on the company's internal network. Julian was officially promoted from driver to Wyatt's executive assistant, though he still handled driving duties. And Abby Zhang was promoted to secretary of the board. The board itself was mostly a formality. The C group, built from the ground up by Wyatt, was a kingdom where his power remained absolute, a fact unlikely to change for the next 20 or 30 years. At lunch, when Wyatt went downstairs to the cafeteria, Julian had already gotten his food prepared just the way Wyatt liked it. As they sat down, Wyatt asked, "Did you see the promotion announcement this morning? I heard people talking about it. It may just be an assistant role, but it comes with a lot of power. You can ask your big sister Abby about that. To be honest, I'm a little worried about putting you in this position so soon." Julian was confused. Why? Wyatt got straight to the point. "I'm afraid you won't be able to resist temptation." "No way. I'm not the kind of person who's blinded by money." "You think money is the only way to bribe someone?" Wyatt countered with a smile. "Or, to put another way, you think staying on the straight and narrow is that easy?" Julian didn't answer, but his eyes seemed to say, "Isn't it?" Wyatt ate a few bites of rice before offering an analogy. "Let's say, and this is just a hypothetical, you're now the president, and you're determined to be a great leader, but you discover that a certain cabinet member's wife or mistress looks exactly like Jennifer Lawrence or Blake Lively, or whichever celebrity is your type. Basically, the moment you see her, your heart starts pounding. Now, an aide or some other official sees this, and he comes to you. He tells you he can get rid of the cabinet member discreetly and arrange for the woman to be yours. Do you say yes or no?" Julian was speechless. Wyatt smiled. "I'm using an extreme example, but the people who want to bribe you or win you over will always find something that tempts you. The principle is the same. But you have to remember, once you start down that path, there's no turning back. It's like a gambler or an addict. Once they win, once they get that high, they can never quit." Julian nodded slowly, his expression serious. After his promotion, Julian was given his own desk right outside Wyatt's office, next to Abby's. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Abby took a call and then knocked on Wyatt's door. "Mr. Wyatt, the results of the NYC Startup Challenge are in. The organizers just called and asked if you could be there at 6 this evening to participate in the final judging." "Okay." Wyatt nodded. "Have Julian go to the preschool and take my daughter home." Abby agreed and left the office. Julian got his new assignment and drove to the preschool early, waiting in the car. Finally, the dismissal bell rang. This wasn't the first time he'd picked up Ellie. The teachers all recognized him. He signed her out without any trouble. "Uncle Julian, where's my daddy?" "Oh, your daddy's really busy. He has to work late tonight." "Oh." Ellie was in pre-K now, learning her phonics. The food at home must have been good, because her cheeks were plump and rosy, like a little porcelain doll. "Uncle Julian, I want French fries." "Okay, I'll take you to get some right now. But just one small order, that's it." "Why? French fries are junk food. Eating too much is bad for you." Ellie replied with impeccable logic, "But I have a little brother." Julian burst out laughing. "Your brother is too little. He can only drink milk right now." "Oh, right." Julian drove her to KFC. He'd intended to buy just one order of fries, but a combo meal was a better deal. Figuring he hadn't had any in a while himself, he ordered a meal, gave the fries and chicken nuggets to Ellie, and ate the burger and drank the Coke himself. After they finished, he carefully wiped the grease from around Ellie's mouth with a damp napkin to destroy the evidence. Then, he drove straight to their house. "Aunt Sarah, Mr. Wyatt has to work late, so I brought Ellie home." "Oh, Julian, thank you. Do you want to stay for dinner?" "No thanks, Aunt Sarah. It's still early, and I have to get back to the office." "All right, drive safe." "I will." After getting home, Ellie spent 15 minutes practicing her letters and then settled on the sofa to watch TV. Darkness fell quickly, and Sarah started preparing dinner. "Chloe, come down for dinner," she called from the bottom of the stairs. Chloe soon came down, but Miranda didn't follow. Ian must still be awake. Ellie, turn off the TV. Time to eat. Okay. With Wyatt not home, Ellie didn't dare defy her mother. She knew that if Mom got mad, there would be no one to stop her. She understood the chain of command very clearly. Grandma, I can't eat this much. Sarah scooped a small portion of rice from Ellie's bowl into her own. Ellie glanced down and pouted again. It's still too much. Chloe's voice was firm. You eat this much all the time. No more complaining. Eat. Ellie reluctantly began to eat her dinner. It took her a full half-hour to finish her bowl. Afterwards, she ran upstairs, saying she was going to see her little brother. As Sarah washed the dishes in the kitchen, she mused, Chloe, do you think Ellie's appetite is off? Maybe she has worms or something. It's definitely because Julian bought her snacks on the way home, Chloe replied. Don't worry, Mom. Her teacher says she's wilder than the boys at school and eats a huge lunch. Oh, that's good then. Michael and Isabel named their son Cameron. The name was inspired by a line of poetry, and since he was born during the rainy spring season, it seemed to fit. After Cameron's birth, Michael's standing in the household plummeted. It was as if, his mission accomplished, he'd been cast aside by the family. The moment the baby was born, they had a maternity nurse on call. Between her, the grandparents, and Isabel's mother, Michael barely had to lift a finger. After 4 months of breastfeeding, Isabel moved back in with Michael for some much-needed couple time, leaving Annie and Cameron in the care of their doting grandparents. One evening after work, Michael returned home, arms laden with packages. Seriously, he grumbled as he walked through the door. Can you buy less stuff? I feel like a delivery guy every night, stopping at the mailroom. Isabel ignored him, slipping on her slippers and grabbing a box cutter to attack the mountain of cardboard. Michael dropped his bags, went to the kitchen, and took 2 covered plates out of the still-warm steamer. He dished himself a bowl of rice and began eating alone at the counter. Honey, look at this outfit. Isn't it cute? It's red. Is that really for a boy? What's wrong with red? He's not even 1 yet. Of the 10 packages Isabel received, at least 6 or 7 were for their daughter and son. The rest were mostly for Michael. She rarely bought things for herself, with the exception of an outrageously expensive handbag she'd bought as a postpartum revenge splurge, a purchase she regretted the moment it arrived. Michael never complained about Isabel's spending. He just thought it was pointless to buy so much online when there were perfectly good baby stores nearby. What he didn't consider was that with Chloe, Ashley, and Sophie all having kids of their own now, finding someone to go shopping with had become nearly impossible. Isabel, bored at home and too lazy to go out alone, could only kill time by scrolling through Amazon and Target. Babe, yeah, I saw a video on TikTok today that said it's best to breastfeed for at least 6 months. You only did it for less than 4. I asked Wyatt and Leo today, and their wives both went for 8 or 9 months. Please, Isabel shot back. Their wives can afford to. Can I? My boobs are already small. A few more months of feeding and they'll disappear completely. Michael nearly choked on his food and wisely decided to shut his mouth and eat in silence. When you've been with someone for a long time, the novelty of certain things fades. Only by pushing through that phase can truly transform into love. After unboxing everything, Isabel piled the cardboard by the front door. Their apartment was 1 per floor, so the hallway space was all theirs. Michael, having finished dinner, dutifully went to the kitchen to wash the dishes. Later that evening, they sat together watching TV. One of them would occasionally glance at their phone, checking messages from the office. The other scrolled through social media, leaving comments here and there. You first, or me? You go. Michael put down his phone and headed to the bathroom to shower. Isabel finished her scrolling, glanced at Michael's phone on the sofa, and picked it up. She unlocked it with her own birthday, then set it back down without looking at anything. A few minutes later, Michael's voice echoed from the bathroom. Babe. Hey, babe. What? Come scrub my back. Coming. Isabel got up and went to him. Half an hour later, they were both tucked in bed. The curtains were drawn, and the room was so dark and quiet you could hear a pin drop. About 10 minutes passed. Puffed. The sound ripped through the silence. Michael, who had been on the verge of sleep, threw off the covers and leaped out of bed. Seriously? Can you not fart under the covers? Isabel lay in bed, cackling with glee. Michael grabbed a pillow and started fanning the air, grumbling, You blew my leg hair into a middle part. Ha ha ha. Meanwhile, Sophie was also in bed, talking quietly on the phone with her mother. The main topic of conversation was none other than Sophie's younger brother, Ben. Teresa was complaining that Ben was completely out of control at college. Other students got by on $2,000 a month for living expenses, but for him, even $4,000 wasn't enough. Sophie suggested he might have a girlfriend, which would explain the higher costs. Your brother? Teresa scoffed. With that blockhead of his, how could he possibly get a girlfriend? Well, I could ask him what he's spending the money on, see if I can get out of him, Sophie offered. He won't tell you the truth. Then I'll have Leo ask him. They get along pretty well. Teresa agreed, then added a warning. Don't you dare let Leo give him any money. I know. After the call, Leo turned to her. Your mom gives your brother $4,000 a month for living expenses? Who knows what he's doing at school? When I was in college, I only got $1,000 a month. By my junior year, they raised it to $1,200. I doubt inflation has gotten that bad. When you have time, ask Ben where the money is going. If he's blowing it all on video games, I swear I'll kill him. Leo just shook his head with a smile. It's probably not that. I'm on his friends list in the game. Don't games have an invisible mode now? You can still check his match history. Leo guessed. I bet he has a girlfriend. Your brother's a good-looking kid. Even if he's not chasing girls, that doesn't mean girls aren't chasing him. It happens all the time now. Even with a girlfriend, $4,000 a month is excessive. That's true. And I'm warning you, Sophie said, you are not to give him any money. But he's my brother-in-law. Sophie pinched Leo's ear. I don't care. Okay. Quiet down. You'll wake up Ryan. It took me forever to get him to sleep. I don't know who he gets it from. Ellie's been brave enough to sleep alone for ages. Him? He's still scared to be by himself. Leo puffed out his chest. Who are you talking about? I was fearless as a kid. Are you sure? Positive. Then why did your mom tell me you used to have to call for someone to go with you to the bathroom at night? Leo was flustered. My mom is full of it. I think you're the one who's full of it. Leo quickly changed the subject. It's fine if he's a little timid as a kid. He'll grow out of it. Besides, there are advantages to being a cautious kid. They don't get into trouble. Didn't you hear what Wyatt said? If kids aren't mischievous when they're little, they won't have much ambition when they grow up. What's so great about ambition? Just getting through life in one piece is already a huge accomplishment. That's true. Working late again tonight? Yeah. Microsoft has a new game launching next August, and the project is behind schedule. We're helping out, so things are pretty tight. Late at night, Alex returned home from another long day at the office. He walked into the living room and asked softly, "Where's the baby?" "Sleeping, of course," Ashley replied, getting up. "Do you want me to make you something to eat?" "No, I ate at the office. You should get to bed." Alex grabbed a Coke from the fridge, but as he was about to take a sip, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He answered, wedging the phone between his ear and shoulder. "Hello? Yeah, that bug is fixed. Run on my machine and see. We'll tackle the slow response time tomorrow." "Right, you guys should head home soon too." "Okay, later." With great ability came great responsibility. As the head of technology, Alex was often doing the work of several people, but his salary had increased accordingly each year. The project the studio was currently working on was Delta Force, a major investment for Microsoft, slated for release the following August. If it became a hit, the entire studio would get a massive bonus. After finishing his 8-ounce Coke in the living room, Alex went to the bedroom, showered, and climbed into bed. "Your sister called me tonight," Ashley said quietly. "What did she say?" "She just wanted to see the baby. Then she told me she's planning to move to D.C. "Oh, why aren't you more concerned about your sister?" "What do you mean, not concerned? She's going to apply for a job at the branch office. Why didn't you call HR there and give them a heads up?" Eva graduated from NYU and has 2 years of work experience. She shouldn't have any problem getting a job at the D.C. office on her own merit. If I called HR beforehand, it would look like nepotism, and that would actually hurt her career. If she can get in and accomplish something on her own, and then people find out she's my sister, it's a completely different story. Using connections is a big taboo in the workplace. Eva knows that. "Is that so?" Ashley said, relieved. Almost messaged Wyatt to ask him to set Eva up with a good position. "Don't. It would just make things complicated." "Okay, I get it. Let's get some sleep." "Yeah." As November began, the temperature dropped day by day. In a quiet apartment, the alarm went off at exactly 7:30. Sam and Abby opened their eyes simultaneously. Neither was one for lazing in bed. They moved in sync, getting dressed, washing up, and then preparing breakfast together. After eating, they took the elevator down to the underground garage and drove to work in their Honda CR-V. On the way, Sam initiated the conversation. "The project I'm on is in Austin. If the talks go well, I might have to go there on a business trip next week. Remember to pack some extra clothes." "I will." Sam then added, "If you get off work early, you don't have to wait for me." Abby smiled. "The office has AC. If I go home, it's just me, and it's a waste of electricity to turn it on. Besides, if something comes up, I can report to the boss right away. I can't just leave at 4, just because he leaves at 4. By the way, is Julian working with you now?" "Yeah, his desk is right next to mine." "So, is your workload lighter than before?" "Nope, I still have just as much to do. Julian is mainly there to accompany the boss when he goes out." Sam was curious. So what does he do when he's at the office? He reads. Reads? Yeah, that guy has changed so much. The first time I met him, I couldn't stand the sight of him. But in just a year, he's become so much more polished. It's like he's a different person. Sam chuckled. That means Wyatt's a good teacher. MMM. When you're around the boss for a long time, you learn a lot of things you can't get from books. Sam agreed. As they neared the office, Sam suddenly said, Abby, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think maybe we could have a baby? Abby paused. Before she could answer, Sam continued. Wyatt has more than just you helping him now. And look at my 3 roommates. They all have kids. I'm the only one who doesn't. Is this you talking, or your parents? I'm just bringing it up. If you don't want to, we can wait. Abby turned her head to look out the window, a small smile playing on her lips. I never said I didn't want to. You just took too long to ask. G.C. had been transferred to a city-level position in May. Although his rank hadn't changed, anyone with eyes could see that moving from a county to a city was just a transitional step. In a year or 2, he was guaranteed to be promoted. Mandy had followed him, becoming a full-time homemaker. She had become increasingly low-key. In college, she had to have the latest phone every year and a new outfit every day. Now, she had just 2 or 3 outfits per season and rarely wore makeup. But Mandy could feel that J.C. loved her more and more. At 5:30, J.C. left his office. Passing by a strip of food trucks, he saw a vendor selling breakfast burritos. Remembering that Mandy loved street food, he parked his car, ran to the stand, and bought 2. When he got home, he immediately presented the still-warm burritos to Mandy. Here, eat it while it's hot. Oh, honey, you're the best. G.C. smiled and ruffled her hair. Looking at the simple dinner of 2 dishes and a soup on the table, he said, You're the best. Mandy took the burrito out of its foil wrapper. The moment the savory aroma hit her, a wave of nausea rolled through her stomach. What's wrong? G.C. immediately noticed her expression. Mandy shook her head. I feel a little sick. Sick? How come? I don't know. Mandy was puzzled too. And my period is really late. G.C.'s brow furrowed. He asked carefully, Do you think you might be pregnant? Mandy's head snapped up. She had considered all sorts of reasons, but that one hadn't crossed her mind. Their eyes met and held for a long moment. I'll run to the pharmacy, J.C. said. There's a 24-hour one a few blocks away. Mandy nodded. He was back in 10 minutes, breathless, a small white box in his hand. They went into the bathroom together, their hearts pounding with a nervous, hopeful energy. A few minutes later, 2 pink lines appeared, faint but unmistakable. G.C. let out a whoop of joy. On the surface, he had to maintain the calm composure he'd cultivated in his political career, but inside, his heart was about to burst. The moment he closed the bathroom door, he couldn't contain his excitement any longer. He swept Mandy up into his arms and spun her around, laughing loud and long. It was only when Mandy playfully punched his shoulder that he finally set her down and immediately called his mother, Caroline. When Caroline heard the news, she quickly made arrangements. I'll come down next week and bring Mandy back here. Okay. The minutiae of daily life played out on a loop. People always complained today about how quickly yesterday had passed. It felt like you just blinked, and the seasons had already changed, winter turning to spring, spring to summer. The days slipped away like sand through your fingers, silent and unnoticed. In the living room, Wyatt was playing with his son when he suddenly asked, Chloe, when did Ellie start saying Dada and Mama? Chloe's memory was a bit hazy. She thought for a moment. I think it was around 8 or 9 months. Hearing this, Wyatt picked up his son, sat him on his lap, and began the lesson. Say, Dad. Ian, nicknamed Cole, was a chubby little guy. He must have been well fed, because his cheeks were so full they looked like he had marbles stuffed in them. Say, Dad. Cole's eyes darted around, focusing on Chloe, showing no intention of speaking. Wyatt was patient, repeating the word over and over. The little guy's attention finally shifted to Wyatt. He stared with wide eyes, listened for a while, and finally made a soft BA sound. Chloe, seeing it was actually working, was about to speak. That's right, say da. But then, the baby suddenly let out an huh sound. So Wyatt would say it, and the baby would reply with a huh. Seeing that Wyatt still didn't get it, Chloe buried her face in her hands, trying to stifle her laughter. Which one of you is calling the other Dada? The realization dawned on Wyatt. He put the baby back down on the rug. The little guy immediately pushed up on his bottom and crawled over to Chloe, grabbing a toy before sitting up properly. See? I told you having a son is just asking for trouble. You're not teaching him right. He doesn't even know what you mean. So how should I teach him? You need someone to demonstrate for Cole. Cole was Ian's nickname. By tradition, it should have been something like Ian, but that sounded like a girl's name. While they were trying to come up with a nickname, Wyatt had spotted a can of Coke on the table, and the name stuck. Chloe didn't mind. It was just a nickname, and besides, Cole could be spun into could be happy. You demonstrate, then. Me? Sit next to Cole. Miranda was visiting Elaine, and Sarah had gone back to Riverwood when Cole was 6 months old. With Ellie at preschool, it was just the three of them at home. Chloe obediently sat down next to their son. Wyatt handed her a rattle. Get his attention. Make him copy you. Chloe shook the rattle, and sure enough, little Cole's eyes were drawn to her. Say that, Wyatt instructed. Chloe obediently said that. Wyatt reached over and ruffled Chloe's hair, then turned back to Cole. Say that. The little guy still stared with wide eyes. His mouth looked like it was trying to form words, but he hadn't quite figured out the trick. His little lips moved, but no sound came out. Say dada. Dada. Say dada. Cole's eyes were full of curiosity. His mouth finally opened, but it was still just that soft BA sound. But it was progress. Wyatt repeated the process again and again. Finally, after more than a dozen tries, the little guy managed to string two sounds together. Dada. Huh. Wyatt heard it, and, ecstatic, immediately scooped up his son and put him on his shoulders, playing a game of horsey. Suddenly, so high up, the baby squealed with delight. His chubby little hands gripped Wyatt's hair, occasionally giving it a sharp tug. Chloe sat on the floor, looking up at the father-son duo, and reminded him with a smile, be careful. Don't worry, I got him. Just then, Julian arrived from the office. Seeing the front gate open, he walked straight into the yard. Hearing the noise from inside, he rang the doorbell. Chloe went and opened the door. Chloe, he greeted her. She nodded and let him in. Wyatt glanced over at Julian. What's up? Is something wrong? Julian got right to it. You know that tea company Carter Lou invested in? It's the summer harvest season, but for the past few days, some local thugs have been causing trouble on a mountain. They're a powerful local crew, and the company manager there can't handle it, so he's asking for our help. Wyatt turned the question back on him. What do you think is the best way to handle this? Julian hadn't expected the question. He thought for a moment. Well, call the police. If it were that simple, they wouldn't have called us. Then what? Have Carter contact the local government officials. Explain the situation clearly. Then tell them that if the tea company thrives, we'll invest in a complete local production chain and guarantee at least 500 local jobs. Okay, I'll go tell Carter. Julian was about to leave when a grin spread across his face. Wyatt, do you notice anything wrong? Wyatt frowned. What are you talking about? Julian just nodded, his grin widening. Just as Wyatt was about to speak, Chloe came out of the kitchen. She took one look at Wyatt and yelled, Get Cole off your head now. Why? What's wrong? He's peeing on you. What? Julian saw his chance and beat a hasty retreat out of the living room. Once in the yard, he nearly doubled over with laughter. Back inside. This little rascal. Why is he peeing all the time? I don't think it's just pee. What do you mean? I think. He might have pooped too. Ugh. I'm going upstairs to shower. Call your mom and tell her to get back here now. At preschool, during recess, the other children were running around on the grass, but Ellie was sitting by herself, her chin propped in her hands, lost in thought. Ryan slid down the slide and, seeing Ellie sitting alone, curiously ran over. Ellie, why aren't you playing with us? It's boring, Ellie sighed, sounding like a world-weary old soul. Let's play red light, green light. Ryan suggested. That's a game for 3-year-olds. Ryan scratched his head, confused. But, aren't we only 4? Ellie suddenly stood up. I've decided. Ryan looked at her, completely baffled. Next year, I'm going to be in the pre-K class with my big brother Henry. Ryan asked meekly. Do you like Henry more than me? Yes. I don't like people who wet the bed when they're 4. Aunt Sophie told my mommy all about it. Ryan's face turned bright red. I do not. That evening, just as Wyatt got home with Ellie, Chloe received a message from Sophie. Ryan was throwing a tantrum, furious that she had told people about his bedwetting incident, which led to him being teased by Ellie at preschool. Now Sophie had no idea what to do. After listening to the voice message, Chloe immediately turned to question Ellie. But Ellie was defiant. I didn't lie. What does it have to do with me? Chloe was speechless. She shot a look at Wyatt, who just laughed. It's fine. Kids forget everything after a night's sleep. Oomph. You just keep spoiling her. Wyatt patted Ellie's head. Go do your homework. When you're done, I'll get you a treat. Ellie said, okay, and obediently went to do her homework. With Chloe busy with Cole and Miranda preparing dinner in the kitchen, Wyatt stepped into the yard to take a call from his father-in-law. When he came back inside, Ellie, who was in the middle of her homework, had apparently learned a new word from somewhere. She asked curiously, Daddy, what does sexist mean? The question hung in the air, stunning the 3 adults into silence. Miranda and Chloe both looked at Wyatt, waiting to see how he would answer. He paused for a moment, then smiled. It means heavy things are for boys to carry, and light things are for girls to carry. Oh, is that it? Yep. Daddy, what now? Can you put an extra cupcake in my lunchbox tomorrow? Wyatt was curious. What? Is your lunch not enough? Ellie shook her head. No, it's because Henry likes them too. I want to give one to him. Wyatt's face fell. She's only 5, and she's already giving things away to boys. Ryan is your classmate. Why are you only thinking about Henry? Because I like Henry. Wyatt's expression turned even darker. Chloe, meanwhile, was thoroughly enjoying watching her husband get flustered by their daughter. She sat nearby, holding Cole, a smirk on her face. Wyatt went and sat next to Ellie, putting a heavy hand on her shoulder. What kind of like are we talking about here? He asked carefully. The moment the words were out, he regretted them. Duh. What other kind of like could a 4 or 5-year-old have besides just wanting to be friends? But Ellie gave her own answer. I like playing with Henry. I like Annie too. Ryan is too dumb. I don't like playing with him. Wyatt let out a long sigh of relief. Normally, Elaine's son, Evan, would have been on that list, but since he had already started elementary school, they didn't see him as often. Summer officially arrived. With preschool out for the summer and a legion of grandparents to look after the little terrors, Ashley, Sophie, Isabel, and Chloe finally had time to get together. One afternoon, Isabel picked up Ashley and Sophie and brought them to her house. Chloe arrived soon after, and the 4 of them headed out to Judy's spa, Aesthetica. Chloe, Isabel, how do you two stay in such good shape? Ashley complained. Look at me. I had my son, and I still have this roll of fat around my stomach. Eat less, move more. What else is there? Isabel said. After my postpartum recovery, I did the hula hoop every single day. Don't you have to take care of the baby? I just feed him. The rest of the time, my mother-in-law and the maternity nurse handle everything. I'm so jealous. Chloe smiled. Just take your time. We all have kids now, so it's okay to be a little bigger. Before Ashley could reply, Isabel immediately objected. How is that okay? If you get fat, you get tired of looking at yourself, let alone the man in your house. During my last trimester, I could tell that jerk Michael wasn't as into me. No way. He seems so good to you. That's because I was carrying his kid. Huh. As they neared the spa, Chloe called Judy. She was at the shop, and her spirits lifted considerably when she heard that Chloe was bringing the whole crew. Her relationship with Zach Lee was practically a done deal. All that was missing was a wedding. But Zach was so busy with work that they'd had to postpone it until early next year. They were in a long-distance relationship, which was torture for Judy. If she wasn't worried about what her family would say, she would have already moved to D.C. to live with him. The spa was in the same location. It mainly catered to members now. The shop wasn't busy, but the price per customer was high, so while it wasn't making a fortune, it wasn't losing money either. The 4 of them were, of course, there for a full spa treatment. Hello, Judy. What a rare sight. All 4 of you together. Tell me about it. Isabel laughed. Ever since we got married, it's either this one is busy or that one is. Marriage, I swear, it's the grave of womanhood. Oh, cut out. The Yu and Zhao families were very close, so Judy knew all their business. She immediately called her bluff. The moment your son Cameron was born, your mother-in-law transferred 2 properties worth tens of millions to his name. You should be counting your blessings. That happened. Isabel waved her hand dismissively. It's just a couple of houses. Nothing to get excited about. TCH. Judy, I can't listen to her brag anymore, Ashley groaned. Hurry up and give me a treatment. Look at my face. It's dry and my pores are huge. Come on upstairs. A short while later, the 4 women were lying on massage beds on the 2nd floor, various beauty machines humming around them. Judy sat nearby, her legs crossed. Since you're all free today, why don't we go out for dinner tonight and have some fun? Isabel was the first to raise her hand. I'm in. I have to be home by 9, Sophie said. Why? Your mother-in-law is at home. The kids are taken care of. I'm worried he'll fuss at night. Nope, Isabel declared. We finally get a chance to get together. You can't be a party pooper. Here's the deal. None of us are allowed to contact home. Whichever husband calls first, that person pays for dinner tonight. Judy, always ready for some drama, chimed in. I think that's an excellent idea. Wyatt knew Chloe was out with her friends, so she figured he wouldn't call. She quickly agreed. Sophie and Ashley were a bit hesitant, but they agreed as well. In the worst-case scenario, they just have to buy dinner. It wasn't a big deal. I think the 4 of you should bring your husbands here for a treatment sometime, Judy said. I saw Michael the other day, and he's aged a lot. He's been drained dry by a certain someone, Ashley quipped. The shop was empty of other customers, and the conversation between the married women became quite candid. Isabel huffed. I had 2 kids in 3 years. It has nothing to do with me. Men just let themselves go after they get married. For us, a bottle of foundation lasting 3 months is a miracle. He can make a tube of face wash last 2 years. If I didn't nag him every day, he wouldn't even bother to shave. My husband is the same. Same here. Chloe added meekly. Wyatt's okay in that department, but he used to be a cute, boyish type. Now he's just a dog. That summer could only be described as chaotic. Sarah and David came to New York for a week and then went back to Riverwood. Summer was the slow season at the bank, and now that Cole could crawl and babble, Miranda decided to go back with them. Chloe, determined to give Wyatt a taste of what it was like to take care of the kids, started going out with her friends every day, leaving Wyatt at home to manage the two of them by himself. He was frazzled and overwhelmed. The older one was fine. Ellie was 5, so she didn't need constant supervision. But the younger one was a different story. If you took your eyes off Cole for a second, he was either sucking on his fingers or had crawled out of sight. Whether he was hungry or needed a diaper change, he would just wail. For the first few days, Wyatt was at his wit's end. Then he decided to just mail it in. The moment Chloe left, he'd set up a playpen in front of the coffee table, plop Cole inside, and go about his business. If he sucked on his hands, so be it, they were clean. If he peed, so what? He had a diaper. My generation was raised this way, Wyatt thought. Our parents didn't have time to hover over us. We were practically free range, and we all turned out fine. However, the second he heard a car pull into the driveway, Wyatt would snap into battle mode. He'd quickly scoop Cole into his arms, creating a picture-perfect scene of fatherly devotion. Then, when Chloe came home, Wyatt would complain about how hard it had been. That way, after the kids were asleep, he could legitimately claim some loving rewards. And so, the latter half of the summer passed in a rather flavorful way. Until August 20th, Black Myth, Wukong, the massive domestically produced AAA game from Game Science, a company Capital had invested in, was officially released. Wyatt hadn't paid much attention to it, but Leo had started playing it the moment it dropped. After half an hour of gameplay, he was already glued to online reviews and live streams. On nearly every streaming platform, over 90% of the single-player game channels were featuring it, and every comment section, without exception, was filled with glowing praise. Stunning visuals, profound story, tight plot, and an epic soundtrack. Overall, a fantastic surprise and a ton of fun. Totally on par with the world's top game studios. Took me 2 hours to beat the first boss. The game I've been waiting for is finally here. I saw the trailer, but the final game exceeded all my expectations. Let's go. Time to beat down some gods and wreak havoc in heaven. First time I've ever paid for a single-player game, but the content completely blew me away. Fueled by the speed of the internet, the game became a nationwide phenomenon in a single day. All sorts of fan creations started appearing on short-form video platforms. Because the game was rich with traditional cultural elements, even official media outlets began promoting it. Naturally, the valuation of Game Science, a previously obscure company, skyrocketed. The life story of its founder, Frank G., was dug up and dissected, and countless media outlets were lining up for interviews. The investment firms that had passed on Game Science were now kicking themselves. None of them had imagined that a game that took so long to develop could become such an explosive hit right out of the gate. About 3 days later, some internet sleuths discovered that investments had invested in Game Science. Initially, the news didn't attract much attention, until a question appeared on a popular Q&A website's trending list. Who is the most low-key rich person you've ever met? The top-voted answer was apparently from one of Wyatt's university classmates. The answer was long, but the very first paragraph identified the person as the boss of investments. Being a fellow alumnus, the person laid out Wyatt's entire 4-year university journey, including how he got his start and when he founded his businesses. From Sesay's fresh market to investments, he took just 5 years to become a multi-billionaire. I estimate his current net worth could be over $15 billion. The recent hit game Black Myth, Wukong, and the globally popular TikTok, he's an investor behind both. The writer was quite fair. The first part detailed Wyatt's history, the middle part contained some speculation, and the end was full of praise. He mentioned that Wyatt still drove an old model Audi 8, that he lived in a relatively modest brownstone, and that he rarely participated in events that required media exposure. In short, it was half truth, half myth. But because of that answer, the question shot to the top of the website's trending list. Around 10 in the morning, Leo was the first to share the link with Wyatt. Wyatt was busy with other things at home and didn't have a chance to look. But then Michael called specifically to talk about it. After hanging up, Wyatt realized several other friends had already sent him the link. He clicked on it, read the answer, and then scrolled to the comments. The poster graduated 6 years ago, so this boss is only 28 this year. See, the real titans of capital are the ones who stay out of the limelight. This guy graduated from my high school in Riverwood. They still have his picture up on the school's bulletin board. Attached photo. JPG reply to comment. Damn, he's hot. Reply to comment. Now that's a real-life tall, rich, and handsome. Reply to comment. Is he married? Is he married? Reply to comment. Wyatt? Anyone from Riverwood should know him. The film studio, the library, the community center, he built all of them. There were many more comments, but Wyatt didn't read any further. After work that evening, Leo, Michael, and Chris all drove over. The moment they walked in, Michael started laughing. Whoa, Wyatt, look at you, you're a big star now. You should have the company package you for a celebrity debut. Get lost. Hey, the internet is a strange thing. You haven't been to the office in months, and somehow you're still the talk of the town. Leo chimed in. This shouldn't be a bad thing, right? Chris shrugged with a smile. It's not bad, but it's not exactly good either. Wyatt, holding Cole, said, it's a good thing I usually keep a low profile. Otherwise, this would attract a lot of hate. This is a potential problem. Michael understood what he meant. Are you worried about people trying to pressure you into donations? Yeah. For us in the investment world, it's not as bad. Still, I've been thinking about setting up a personal foundation for a while now. Since this has happened, I might as well get it done before the end of the year. You want to build schools? Or something else? A lot of schools can't even find students these days. Build more schools? You'd have to be crazy. So what's the plan? Initially, we'll just focus on sponsoring outstanding university students from low-income backgrounds. It's a way to give back to society and also build up our talent pool. This doesn't have much to do with you guys. I'll get a professional to handle it, Wyatt said. But since you're all here, there's something I wanted to discuss with you. Seeing that Wyatt was about to talk business, Chloe took Cole from his arms and led Ellie upstairs. Chris grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl, took a large bite, and asked, "What's up?" I want you guys to start identifying and grooming suitable successors from the company's current mid to senior level management. Once Cole starts preschool, I'm stepping back from direct management of the group. You three can serve as rotating chairman. I'm taking my wife on a tour of the country. Dude, you want to retire at 30? Wyatt shrugged, a smug look on his face. I've made enough money. I've got a wife and kids. Of course I'm going to enjoy life while I'm still young. I can handle being president of a subsidiary, Chris said, but making me a rotating chairman of the whole group? I don't think I can do it. You'll figure things out by discussing them, Wyatt said with a smile. If you get stuck, just think outside the box. It's like a chair can only seat one person, but if you flip it upside down, you can sit 4 people on the legs. The 3 of them instinctively glanced at the legs of the nearest chair. Then, in perfect unison, they all shot him the middle finger. The sooner you start training successors, the better, Wyatt continued. Besides, me not being involved in the day-to-day doesn't mean I'm disappearing off the face of the earth. If you run into something you can't solve, just give me a call. Michael remembered something and asked the Internal Control and Compliance Department. Are you thinking of giving that to Julian? Yeah. Does he know anything about that stuff? It doesn't matter if he knows or not. For that position, besides being my guy, he needs to have no greed. I can satisfy his need for money. His grandfather provides the power. What about women? Leo asked. The kid started hanging out in bars and clubs in high school. In his own words, even if those shady women threw themselves at him now, he'd find them dirty. Michael burst out laughing. The kid's got his head on straight now. So he's the perfect person for the job, Wyatt concluded. Jessica will continue to manage the D.C. office. My cousin Mandy has already started her internship there as Jessica's assistant. In the future, if Jessica doesn't want to do it anymore, I might consider letting my cousin take over. Oh, and Alex's sister, Eva Fong, has also joined the D.C. office. Did Alex arrange that? No, even Jessica didn't know about it. Leo smiled. I heard it from Sophie, who heard it from Ashley. Wyatt nodded. We'll leave it for now then. Wyatt, what do you guys usually eat for dinner these days? Michael asked. Why? Isabel only knows how to make the same few dishes over and over. I think I'll just crash here for dinner tonight. Count me in. Well, I'm not leaving either then. Establishing a foundation required applications and approvals. The paperwork was a lengthy process. Wyatt handed it over to someone in the finance department who had previously worked as an auditor for a foundation. After Wyatt's talk with his friends about succession planning, Michael, Leo, and Chris all began to discreetly scout for candidates within the company. Meanwhile, the trending topics on the Q&A site changed daily. The internet's memory is short, and the buzz about Wyatt quickly died down. In September, schools and preschools were back in session. With Ellie at school, the house was much quieter. Cole's first birthday was fast approaching, and Wyatt and Chloe were busy preparing for the celebration. "Honey, look at this outfit. Isn't it cute? It's okay. And this hat. Isn't it adorable? MMM. As Chloe picked out clothes for Cole's birthday, she asked, "Are you sure we don't need to invite everyone over for a meal?" "No, it's too much trouble. The people you invite will feel obligated to give a gift, but also weird if they don't. The people you don't invite will hold a grudge. And then we're in the awkward position of accepting gifts. It's better to just have a lively celebration with the family." That's true. Cole was born at the end of September. Customs like the first birthday item grab were calculated according to the lunar calendar, so it wasn't until the day of the first frost after the national holiday that Sarah, David, Miranda, and Charles all came over from Riverwood. The next day, on Cole's first birthday, the whole family was up at the crack of dawn. Elaine, Isabel, and Sophie, after dropping their own kids off at preschool, also showed up uninvited to join the fun. The birthday ceremony was presided over by Sarah, rolling away disasters, washing hands, dressing in new clothes, wearing gold, combing hair. Wyatt didn't understand these customs and stood by like a prop. Finally, it was time for the item grab. Sarah placed Cole on the floor. Wyatt and Chloe laid out a fan-shaped array of items they had prepared: a calligraphy brush, a spoon, a book, snacks, a wooden sword, a copper coin, a small hammer, and a host of other things. According to tradition, whatever the baby grabs foretells his future. Grabbing a brush means he'll be a good student. A spoon, a chef. A hammer, a lawyer. A crowd of adults gathered around, eagerly waiting to see what little Cole would choose. Cole, seeing this circle of people, kept looking up at the adults, seemingly uninterested in the items spread before him. Chloe, seeing this, moved to the front and clapped her hands, finally capturing his attention. His little eyes scanned the objects. Then, with a push from his short legs, he crawled over to them. His left hand picked up the book. Without letting go, his right hand grabbed a jade seal. Isabel, arms crossed, laughed. This little guy is so greedy, grabbing two things at once. Chloe was delighted. Grabbing a book was a good omen for his studies, and as for the seal, she didn't think too much about it, but it certainly couldn't be a bad thing. Wyatt was a little surprised. He had bought the seal online along with a wooden sword and spoon. According to the seller's description, the seal symbolized power. Just as Chloe was about to pick Cole up, he suddenly dropped both items, crawled over to Isabel, and wrapped his arms around her ankle. The whole room froze. Isabel quickly pressed her dress down, looked at Wyatt, and said, "He really is your son?" A big flirt produces a little flirt. Wyatt was mortified. Chloe quickly scooped up her little troublemaker. After the item grab, Wyatt ceremoniously sealed a bottle of high-end scotch, and the family took a group photo, officially concluding the birthday celebration. After the first frost came winter. This year, after a light dusting of snow, there were no more flurries. In the blink of an eye, red lanterns were hanging in every household, once again preparing to welcome the new year. 11 years. The memories in his mind finally overlapped. Everything had come to pass. In that single moment, Wyatt's ability to see the future was gone. But he was surprisingly calm. Chloe had come up behind him without him noticing. She frowned. "What's been 11 years?" Wyatt smiled. "We met in 2014. It's 2025 now. Hasn't it been 11 years? Chloe rolled her eyes. "You've been acting strange lately, you know? Like a sentimental old man, always getting nostalgic." "No, I haven't." Wyatt quickly changed the subject. "You said you wanted to see snow, right? After the Lantern Festival. How about I take you up north?" "What about Ellie and Cole?" "Mom and Dad are here and Cole's weaned." "What else are you worried about?" Chloe didn't answer, but she still looked hesitant. It's a fact of life that once a woman has children, a part of her heart will always be with them. Seeing her silence, Wyatt pressed on. "If we go now, we can actually relax. In a few years, when they're bigger and the grandparents can't handle them, we'll really have no time to get away." Chloe was quickly won over. "So, where are we going?" "First, Aspen. And then wherever we want to go. There are 50 states. Even if we visit one a month, it'll take us 4 or 5 years." Chloe nodded in agreement. "Okay, but before we leave, you have to make sure everything is taken care of." "Deal." New Year's was really a holiday for children. For adults, the older you get, the less festive it feels. The dozen or so days of the holiday passed. Besides a few obligatory visits, Wyatt spent most of his time at home, drinking tea in the morning and enjoying a small drink in the evening. In a flash, it was the Lantern Festival. That night, after the family had dinner, little Cole went to bed early. Ellie watched some cartoons, ate 2 sweet rice balls, and was then put to bed by her grandmother. After Wyatt and Chloe went upstairs, they started packing. "We're the bulky clothes on the plane, otherwise we won't be able to fit everything in 2 suitcases. So of these 2 down jackets, which one looks better?" The one on the left. The one on the right is too short. But this one's so thick. I feel like a marshmallow in it. Wyatt was exasperated. So what if you look like a marshmallow? You're only dressing up for me to see anyway. Who says? Wyatt was exasperated. So what if you look like a marshmallow? You're only dressing up for me to see anyway. Feeling feisty, are we? Chloe wrinkled her nose, hung the thicker jacket on a hanger for the next morning, and asked, when Ellie wakes up tomorrow and finds us gone, do you think she'll throw a fit? Wyatt, busy trying to stuff more clothes into a suitcase with a vacuum seal bag, replied with a grin. I told my mom that if Ellie asks, she should just say, I went on a business trip. And what about me? You went with me, of course. My daughter is a clever little thing. She'll definitely be suspicious. Wyatt turned and gave Chloe a playful swat on the behind. Forget about her. Come over here and help me. After half an hour of wrestling with the suitcases, they finally lay down in bed. Before we go, we need to set some ground rules. Let's just get some sleep. I'm talking to you. Don't play dead. You make the rules, okay? Really? Really? Chloe immediately laid out her terms. Okay, once we get to Colorado, we're not going to act like a married couple. Wyatt's eyes widened. What does that even mean? Don't get excited yet, Chloe explained. My point is, there's no novelty anymore. I want you to woo me all over again. You're insane. See? You're already insulting me. Would you have insulted me when you were trying to win me over? Stop messing around. We have 2 kids. I don't care. If you don't agree, I'm not going. With that, Chloe rolled herself up in the blanket and turned her back to him. Wyatt sighed, turned on his side, and wrapped an arm around her waist. Fine, fine. Whatever you say. We'll do it your way, okay? You promise? I promise. Okay. Then, let's sleep. You've hogged the entire blanket. How am I supposed to sleep? Chloe turned back around, buried her head in Wyatt's chest, and wrapped her arms and legs around him like an octopus. The night passed peacefully. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, Wyatt gently woke a still sleeping Chloe. She checked the time, quickly got dressed, brushed her teeth, and got ready. They tiptoed downstairs with their suitcases. Sarah, knowing they were leaving early, had already made them noodles. You 2 eat up. Julian has been waiting outside for a while. Okay. Wyatt and Chloe quickly finished their noodles, grabbed their suitcases, and got into the waiting SUV. Julian drove them toward the airport. Wyatt, how long will you be gone this time? Not sure. Could be 10 days, could be 3 months. Keep a close eye on things at the office. Don't worry about the small stuff, but email me about anything important. I'll check when I have time. Also, that list I gave you yesterday. Keep a closer eye on those people. No problem. Wyatt remembered something else. With me out of town, you'll have less on your plate. You should take the time to get an MBA from Fordham. The stuff you learn in university might not always apply in the real world, but it can broaden your perspective, give you a frame of reference. With my academic record, even with money, it will be hard to get in, right? Wyatt smiled. I have connections. If you're willing to go, I can arrange it. Thanks, Wyatt. After about a half-hour drive, they arrived at the airport. Wyatt led Chloe inside. They checked in, and after about an hour of waiting, they were finally seated in first class on a flight to Aspen. The flight from JFK to Aspen/Picken County Airport was only about 3 hours. It took off at 8:30 and was scheduled to land at 11:20. But there was still a drive from the airport into town. By the time they arrived at their hotel, it was exactly noon. Wyatt rubbed his stomach. Let's drop our luggage off at the hotel and then go get some good food. He started pulling the suitcases towards the lobby, but after a few steps, he realized Chloe wasn't following him. He turned around, frowning. Honey, what are you waiting for? What did you just call me? Wyatt remembered their conversation from the night before. He thought she was just being impulsive, but he hadn't expected her to actually go through with it. Thinking that the whole point of the trip was to have fun, he quickly changed his expression and put on a charming smile. Excuse me, beautiful. Would you do me the honor of having lunch with me? Ugh, so cheesy. Hey, fine, fine. I'm hungry anyway. Chloe followed him into the hotel lobby and then asked, how many rooms did you book? 1, of course. Chloe nodded. Good. Then I'll take the bed tonight, and you can sleep on the sofa. Don't push it. Until you've successfully wooed me, we need to maintain our distance. Fine, fine. Maintain our distance. I get it.